Welcome, everyone. This is your friend, the DN What If, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of what if Deku faced a new evil while struggling with love? If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. In a secret, discreet location somewhere in the island nation of Japan, a secret laboratory still stands despite what had recently transpired about a decade ago when the nation was under its most recent crisis of hero and villain activity. But with the likes of Japan's criminal overlord, All for One, and the League dissolved, one may wonder whose laboratory this even is. It is an overlooked laboratory of the League of Villains' mad scientist, Dr. Kyudai Garaki, the closest of All for One's worshippers and right-hand man. Amidst all the rebuilding Japan went through following the end of the war, the evil scientist had somehow managed to escape from confinement and went into hiding. The villainous madman was currently reading a newspaper from the comfort of his lab chair, growling at each mention of the name Deku or Izuku Midoriya. The headline on the first page was a collab picture of the likes of Class 1A graduates and the youthful heroes that participated in the battle against All for One, and the title read, New Heroes Soaring in Popularity Polls. Deku takes first on newest poll. A vein bulged atop his bald head, anger bubbling over, before he completely tore apart and tossed aside the paper. He threw it in a spot where other newspapers he read met the same fate. He then turned to his table and slammed it with both hands, letting out an enraged shout. Demon IT! Demon IT! He roared. How could things have turned out like this? Is fate just mocking me at this point? All the efforts of my master and the League, undone like that. Feeling his blood pressure rising, Garaki soon clutched his chest and began letting out long exasperated pants in an attempt to calm down. But one moment of his life had been constantly replaying itself in his mind. Sorry kid. It's not gonna happen. The moment was when he was still playing his role as the chairman of the Jaka Hospital Board. He diagnosed the 4-year-old Izuku Midoriya as being unable to manifest a quirk of his own. Though this moment had originally been routine for him, it was a crushing blow to the child's self-esteem. And yet, as if karma had finally come back to bite him, it was this same boy that was able to defeat All for One and led him to his death. Since having heard about what happened while he was imprisoned, Izuku had become the deeply rooted source of Garaki's hatred and rage. Each time this memory returned, his anger couldn't help but spike. If only I knew what would have followed, I would have begged All for One to make that twerp his new vessel. Not that ungrateful little traitor, Shigaraki. But how was I supposed to expect him to meet all might of all people? He shouted, clutching his head. Near the mad doctor, a large pod full of fluid reflected his expression off its glass. Inside was a shadowy creature, human in build with long white hair and flickers of black embers radiating off it, floating in suspended animation. The creature inside brought a sickening smile to Garaki's face. Setting aside his anger, the doctor approached and pressed his hand against the glass while eyeing the creature. But soon will bring about not just the complete annihilation of that brat, Deku, but the entire world will be under our thumb. He satanically laughed. Your dreams will not be on deaf ears, master. And all the efforts I wasted on the League of Villains will be put to better use. From inside the pod, the creature's eyes began to slowly open, showing bright red pupils looking back. My hero, New Age of Heroes. Part 01. Another normal day for Midoriya. Mizudafu, Japan. At the same time, under the sunny skies above, a large car pile-up was reported due to the sudden lost control of a person's quirk and was now causing chaos for those at the site. Several passengers were still trapped in their cars either because of the wreckage or fear of getting out and escaping the rampant quirk user. The quirk user was shown to be a colossal 4-armed giant that lost control of himself due to the traffic. Several police officers were working to rescue the trapped victims while another squad attempted to stall the suspect. Suddenly, he erupted into a vicious roar and grabbed a car with each of its massive hands, lobbing them directly for the police. Move! An officer yelled, his squad successfully avoiding the flying cars as they crashed and smashed to the ground. Just then, The giant roared and grabbed onto a nearby school bus with students and the bus driver still inside. They all screamed in terror as the bus was lifted into the air, suspended above his head. But as he prepared to throw it, a lone figure came racing onto the scene and leapt straight for the giant. Decorated in his mechanized battle suit and flowing yellow cape, Izuku drew back his left hand with fist clenched tight. "Detroit smash!" he exclaimed, slugging the giant's face. The blow was strong enough to cause the giant to fumble its grip of the bus, dropping it on its side in the process, before stumbling backwards. At the same time, another hero arrived on the scene and used her quirk to remove the gravity of the entire bus. It slowly rotated amidst the zero gravity before landing on its tires, the hero responsible being Achiko. She hurried over as the driver opened the door and the students began hurrying out. "Whoa! Well, everybody calm down. Is anybody hurt?" Achiko asked, watching them rush past. The driver came rushing out as well, nearly fumbling over his own 2 feet as Achiko caught him. He let out a relieved sigh. Thank you so much. Don't worry. I'll keep an eye on the kids," he stuttered with a shaking body. Achiko nodded. Thanks," she said before letting him go. At the same time, Izuku was still going at it with the 4-armed giant. Each time the monstrous brute threw a punch at him, the hero was able to quickly avoid or jump over his giant arms. After another failed attack, Izuku came at him with a roundhouse kick to his face. "Deku, you need any help?" Achiko called. Izuku paused for a moment to look back to Achiko, flashing a thumbs up. "It's okay, Uravity. I got this. Please help the officers with those still trapped," he called. She nodded with a confident smile. He turned back as the giant charged for him, overcome with anger. He threw another colossal fist at him, but Izuku used this chance to stop and lock onto his arm, halting his movement. Calm down. You're not in control of yourself," Izuku exclaimed. "If you can hear me, then stand down." The monster growled more until it eventually broke Izuku's grip and sent him flying into the air. Achiko saw him and gasped. "Deku!" she shouted. But out of nowhere, Izuku's arm was quickly snagged by a long strand of sticky tape, shot from the ground below by the arrival of Shiro. He pulled Izuku back towards the ground before he was caught by Shoji, standing alongside Shiro. "Are you okay?" Shoji asked. "We just arrived ourselves." Izuku groaned, thanking his friends before he was set down on his feet. He looked back at the giant still glaring at him, letting out a snarl. "Something tells me he's not in the mood to talk things out, am I, Daria?" Shiro commented. "We might have to overpower or subdue him before he gets out of control." Just then, a series of explosions was heard overhead before another hero burst onto the scene. Once close enough, he unleashed a massive explosion straight at the giant, causing him to fumble backwards. Landing soon after was Izuku's childhood friend and rival, Bakugo, decked in his hero attire. "Kaken!" Izuku called. Bakugo glared over his shoulder and groaned. "Demon it, Deku. How hard is it for you to use my hero name?" "Call me Dynamite when we're working, you nerd," he exclaimed. From behind, the giant let out another roar and lunged for Bakugo with arms drawn back. But he quickly turned back while his hand emitted a bright red flash, readying another massive explosive attack. "Go to sleep, you idiot," he roared, unleashing another massive blast at point-blank range. The blast was enough to send a big shockwave across the landscape, the others bracing themselves in the process. Bakugo's attack had knocked the giant out, its eyes fading to white before collapsing backwards. The next day, the entirety of the crisis that day was being talked about and reported on by newscasters as Izuku, now wearing more casual street attire, was seated in a restaurant together with a few of his friends. Seated beside him at their table was Bakugo, and opposite them was the likes of Jiro and Kaminari. Jiro watched the footage being shown on the TV, perched in the upper corner of the dining floor, with a heavy groan. "God damn it, Bakugo," she muttered with a headshake. "What happened to you toning things back when it came to handling criminals?" Kaminari chuckled while she massaged her forehead. "What were you expecting, Jiro? He's always been that way since we first met in school," he added. "He just has a really short fuse." I'm thankful he didn't reduce that car pileup into a crater. Bakugo growled, crushing his drink cup in his hand while slamming the table with his other hand. Shut up. I was restraining myself. He exclaimed in absolute fury. But Jiro simply rubbed her temples, unable to fathom. Izuku looked on nervously, not saying a word as to further rile him. Looking to change the subject, Izuku turned to his friends and noticed the silver and gold rings on Jiro and Kaminari's fingers. Kaminari wore his on the same arm now draped over Jiro's shoulders. Anyway, he said casually, it's really great that you guys are back. How was your trip out to Europe? Jiro and Kaminari lightly gasped, eyes turning to Izuku. Remembering the concert Jiro wanted to attend brought a smile to her face. We had a lot of fun. The hotel we were at was very accommodating, the people were friendly, and yeah, we just had a good time, she said. Kaminari genuinely blushed a bit as he saw Jiro's gaze turn to him. He lightly scratched his cheek. We had to do something fun for our 2-year anniversary. Am I wrong? He continued the story. We should really be thanking Yaoyorozu's family for offering to pay for the tickets. They weren't exactly cheap. Jiro agreed. Still, the fact that you guys have been dating for 2 years now. That's a real accomplishment in its own way. Izuku added. Jiro glimpsed at Kaminari's hand before she began blushing as well. Yeah. Who would have thought? She said softly, earphone jack and charge bolt, the hottest trend when it came to hero power couples that year. But I'm not complaining. She then looked towards Kaminari, the sight of her smile making him flustered, thanking him for being a way cool boyfriend. He tried to pass it off as no big deal while trying not to show his real feelings. Bakugo's eyes shifted to Izuku. At least you're doing better than this dork at dating. Right, Izuku? He said in a braggish tone. Izuku gasped and looked to his friend, casually leaning in his seat. What's that supposed to mean, Kakin? He shouted, face bright red. His friend sighed and pointed a finger straight at him. You know what I mean, dumbass, he proclaimed, causing Izuku to freeze up. When are you gonna finally grow some ball and tell her you're in love? It's obvious as all hell that you liked her, even when we first started going to you. But here you are, Mr. Number One, too scared to even be legit with his feelings. Have my words not been drilled into your head yet? Those words reduced to Izuku to a stuttering mess, trying and failing multiple times to find the best comeback to Bakugo's insult. But Kaminari suddenly laughed. Like you're one to talk, Bakugo. I seem to recall you not having anyone either. Anytime one of your fangirls try getting close, you flip and threaten to blast them. You can't even nail a sidekick yet. He proudly mocked. You say Midoriya has romance issues? You haven't even tried. Bakugo snarled, the veins in his eyes bulging and teeth grinding. Say that again, idiot. Say that again and see what happens, he roared, beginning to form crackling sparks in his palm and scaring Kaminari. While their argument continued, Jiro turned her gaze to Izuku and he silently looked back. As much as I want to disagree, Bakugo kind of has a point. Take it from me, Midoriya. If you really like Uraraka, you should tell her to her face, unless you're willing to lose her to someone else. She said, now would be the best time to ask her, especially with her folks living better. Izuku remained quiet before lightly nodded. Funny you should say that. Uraraka said she wanted me to meet her a little later today. Maybe I'll try and bring it up then. Thanks for the support, Jiro. While later, having left the restaurant and his friends, Izuku is making a beeline to meet up with Achiko at their designated meetup spot. As he ran down the street, doing his best to avoid the traffic and other bystanders passing him, he eventually arrived and saw Achiko leaning up against a building. Like him, she was also in casual attire as she soon saw him. She happily waved her hand. Deku, she called. Izuku came to a stop at her side, stopping to catch his breath. Hey, Uraraka. Sorry if I kept you waiting. I didn't want to use my battle suit, unless it was an emergency. He apologized. Uraraka giggled back. Don't worry. I only got here a little while ago myself. She said, thanks again for agreeing to meet up, Deku. Our hero work makes meetings like this a rare opportunity, know what I mean? Izuku laughed alongside her with a nod. Speaking of which, can you explain why you wanted to meet here of all places? He asked, looking at the sign overhead. Wouldn't a spa visit be better spent with someone like your mom? Or perhaps Yaoyorozu? He looked back to her just as she placed her left hand against his cheek, surprising him slightly, and rubbed the scar on his cheek. The wound was a memento from the final battle with All for One and the League of Villains. A soft smile was on Achiko's face, earning Izuku's full attention. This isn't really for me. It's more so a gift for you, Izu. She softly replied, making him gasp. One of the masseuses that works here has a quirk that has made this place extremely popular. Her quirk allows her to boost the recovery of flesh wounds, even removing all traces of their existence. She then took his hand in hers, looking over the multitude of wounds present on his fingers and palm. I know you'd probably say these are reminders of your time mastering One for All. But, now that the embers have faded away, and you're not at risk of harming yourself with your own quirk, don't you think it's all right to treat these properly? She asked. Izuku was completely silent, unable to speak while she looked back at him with a look of genuine concern. Eventually, he lightly sighed and smiled back to her. Maybe you're right. I'll give it a shot, he said. Achiko smiled. If I can be somewhat blunt, I miss the smiling face of that remarkably normal guy I met when I went to Yin. I'd like to see it again, she added. Following that, the two said nothing more as they went inside side by side through the sliding doors. My Hero, New Age of Heroes. Part 02, What are the right words? Inside the private massage room for guests to use, Izuku is calmly laying on the massage board as Achiko watches from afar on a nearby couch. He had stripped himself of his shirt, dressed in a pair of white shorts, with his scars on full display across his upper body and hands. A look of worry plagued Achiko's face as she looked on before the masseuse came in. Sorry to keep you both waiting, a woman's voice said. Their gaze turned to her, a middle-aged woman dressed in a casual kimono and with short black hair, as she approached Izuku. She took one look at his multiple scars and gasped. Oh wow. Miss Uravity wasn't joking. You truly must have suffered when you were overusing your power, Mr. Deku. Even so, I thank you for all you did for us during those dark hours. If it weren't for you and the other heroes, I don't think we'd still be here, she said, bowing politely to him. Izuku chuckled. It's a small price to pay if it meant making sure we all had a future to look towards, he casually replied. The masseuse took her position next to Izuku and asked him to flip over. He agreed while crossing his arms under his head to prompt his pillow as she went to work, beginning with his upper muscles. It took a while for the feelings of her massage beginning to take effect, but Izuku looked extremely comfortable and sighed heavily once he was completely relaxed. Whoa, you don't think I ever got a massage that felt this good before, he replied with a goofy grin. Achiko chuckled, using her phone to snap a pic of his expression before he noticed. As the massage went on, the overwhelming sense of relaxation caused him to drift to sleep. A previous conversation soon replayed itself in his mind, seated next to the elderly retired Toshinori at the park for lunch one day. You want to know what the best way is to tell Uraraka you love her? Yeah. It's been something I can't seem to get right, no matter how much I practice ahead of time. You must have had a lot more experience dealing with ladies admitting they loved you, right, All Might? Ha. Young Midoriya, I might have been the biggest celebrity in hero society when I was in my prime, but even I don't have the answers to everything. I'm afraid I'm not the best person to talk to. I know. Why not ask Shoto? He's quite popular when it comes to the ladies. If I went to Shoto about this, I'd be way too embarrassed. This is super personal. Heh. Well, I don't know what made you think talking with me was the better choice. But I may have some words that might help. Echa? What is it? Just be yourself, young man. Use the time you've spent with her during your time together at UA and just naturally apply it in future opportunities you get. If you just follow what your heart says, then just like how you mastered One for All, you'll be able to reach her. Thanks, All Might. No problem. Also, you know you don't have to keep calling me All Might, right? I am retired. Doh. I can't believe I let it slip out again. Toshinori's laugh echoed in his mind as he slowly awakened from his massage, eyelids feeling heavy still. The first thing he noticed was Uraraka reading from a magazine before she noticed his eyes. "Hey sleepyhead. How was your nap?" she teasingly asked. Izuku yawned loudly before rising up from the table. "You slept through the entire process. She finished a while ago, but I guess you needed the extra beauty sleep." Achiko continued. Izuku gasped, remembering what happened earlier, before asking her if she had a mirror on her. She pointed to a nearby full-body mirror and let his reflection answer for him. When he gazed at himself, he couldn't believe his eyes. The large scar that once filled up his upper left arm as well as the previous wound on his face had miraculously vanished, restoring the freckles beneath his eye. Still in shock, he brought his hand to his cheek and rubbed it. No trace of his damaged skin could be felt as Achiko handed him his clothes back. "In a way, this is amazing. It's like it was all a dream," he muttered. "See? I knew this was a chance worth taking. Look at yourself. You have your adorable face back," she replied. Izuku's face quickly turned bright red, Achiko suddenly realizing what she said and slapped her hands over her mouth, blushing just as bad. What are you thinking, Achiko? Why'd you say that?" she thought. "Heh. What was that?" he asked. When she realized he was glancing her way, she freaked out and began frantically waving her arms around. "I didn't mean it like that. You'll look a lot more photogenic next time someone asks for a photo. That's it. You know," she exclaimed, completely flustered. Izuku started snickering, trying to hold it back before he burst out laughing. "That's quite the compliment, Uraraka." "Thank you though," he laughed. His infectious laugh soon washed over her as she started laughing as well, wiping away a tear from her eye. The look of her big smile made Izuku's heart skip a beat, his feelings overwhelming him once again. As she continued laughing, he began to move his arm towards her. But feeling this wasn't the right time, lowered it back to his side. While later, having dressed himself again, Izuku and Achiko left the spa and spent the remainder of the afternoon walking and reminiscing with each other. Their walk eventually led to the two having dinner together at a nearby restaurant, the two sharing a table. He once again felt his smooth cheek. "Thanks again, Uraraka, for today. I know my mom is going to be over the moon when I next see her," he said. "You don't have to thank me, but if you insist, then I'm gonna hold you to it. If we end up getting dessert, I'm going to get whatever I want, no matter how much. You can repay me by offering to pay," she teased. "I already paid for your massage." Izuku let out a small chuckle. "Okay then. I think I can manage that," he asked. Achiko laughed, telling Izuku she was just joking. The waiter arrived at their table with their orders and set them on the table. As he watched Achiko talking with the waiter, he began thinking back to his talk with Toshinori. Would now be the best time to tell her? I mean, a lot of couples usually do so in those movies. Or wait, isn't that just a greatly overused trope? Achiko picked up her utensils just as Izuku snapped back to the present. "Maybe I should hold off until after dinner. I mean, I don't want to embarrass her when there's so many people here. If any of them happen to be reporters, boy. Looks good. What do you think, Izuku?" Achiko asked. Izuku looked down at his steak and nodded back. "It looks like a place Momo would definitely come to. Oh, speaking of which, did you know Kaminari and Jiro got back from their trip recently? The one Momo's parents helped pay for," Izuku said, leading them into another conversation. The rest of their time together was them enjoying good food, each other's company, and catching up. To Izuku's slight frustration, once the night ended, he realized he once again botched his chance to tell Achiko how he felt. The next day. At Achiko's house the next day, she had just finished making herself look presentable before heading out in her hero costume. She adjusted her headpiece before taking another glimpse at herself in the mirror. As she was leaving, she noticed her mother walking towards her. "Oh, before you leave, Achiko, there's something I wanted to ask you. Do you have a second?" she asked. Even though her hand was on the doorknob, she nodded. "Sure, Mom." "What's up?" she asked. Her mother lightly smiled. "It's not a big deal or anything, but I forgot to ask you how your date with Izuku was last night. You came home with a pleasant smile on your face, so I can only imagine you finally let the boy know you like him," she asked. Achiko suddenly froze up, her eyes widening and pupils shrinking as sweat raced down her face. About last night? Ugh, she said in a monotone fashion. Before she finished, her mother lightly sighed and shook her head, making Achiko even more embarrassed. Really, Achiko? You don't have to keep holding it in any longer. I know you work hard as a hero to provide for your father and me. We already have plenty of money now, especially since we were endorsed by the Hero Public Safety Commission after you graduated. But I'm worried that you're doing all this at the cost of your own happiness, she continued, resting her hand against her cheek. Achiko calmed down, albeit still with her face blushing greatly. Even if you only start out as your own hero team, it's okay to rely on others. Amazing things can happen when people come together with those they care for. Remember? She asked, making her daughter gasp. The memory of her and Izuku together after All for One's defeat came flooding back, remembering the pain and misery she felt because she blamed herself for Toga's death. Words she heard from Izuku since echoed in her head. Achiko, holding a hand can be enough to soothe the pain. You're my hero. Today, I really wanted to talk to you more, Uraraka. And not just today. From now on too. Tears began leaking from her eyes, wiped away soon after. Sarmal, I guess, when it comes to love, I need a little more courage. But don't worry. If you and Dad are backing me up, I'll definitely be able to tell him, she replied, nodding with confidence. Her mother smiled before hugging her. That's my Achiko, she said, patting her back. She then let her leave, Achiko using float to travel across the city with a mighty jump. She touched down near the intersection of downtown before she turned her quirk off. Just then, she noticed someone had witnessed her touchdown and saw Mina Ishido glaring at her with arms crossed. She impatiently tapped her foot with a look of disappointment radiating off her. Oh, good morning, Pinky. How are? She waved before Ishido hurried over to her. She gave her an aggressive glare, pouting directly at her. Achiko hesitated to say anything back. Uchaku, why didn't? How could? I mean, she growled, fumbling over her words before she started comically bopping Achiko's head. Dummy. Dummy, 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 dummy. Achiko quickly grabbed Mina's wrists. Whoa. Calm down. Why are you pummeling me? She asked. Ishido pouted again. Why? Why did you botch things up again? You had Midoriya in the palm of your hands and, just like the other times, you didn't seal the deal. You're just a complete moron. Ishido exclaimed. Suddenly, Achiko realized that she had texted the others about their day together before she went to bed last night, sharing that she wasn't able to confess. Mina's look of anger quickly made sense for her. I swear you are hopeless. Do you want some other girl to swipe Midoriya before you stop dragging your feet? Ishido continued, he might be as dense as you when it comes to romance, but you're driving me nuts with how long you're taking. Achiko heavily sighed. Ribbit, why did I know this was going to happen first thing? Tsu asked. Both girls gasped and looked nearby, seeing Froppy stuck to the wall of the building in her hero suit. She leapt down in between the two before shoving them apart. Ishido, leave Uraraka alone. We've known each other since school and you should have expected this by now. Let her do things her own way, Ribbit. She continued, turning to Achiko. Don't worry, Uraraka. Deku's not going anywhere. Ishido groaned, muttering Tsu was not helping her case under her breath while looking away. Just then, the earpiece Achiko wears in her helmet gave a couple of buzzes. She brought her hand to her ear. Hold on a second, she said before pressing a button down. Uravity, come in. Are you there? Deku? What's wrong? Is there a crisis? We've got a wounded child laying in the intersection by Yurare. He was trying to stop a truck from hitting another bystander but took the hit in his place and he's losing blood fast. We could use your quirk to help get him into an ambulance ASAP. On my way. Hang on. Hey. What's up, Achiko? Mina asked. Achiko turned away and used her quirk on herself again, her fingertips glowing briefly. Deku needs my help. A child was caught in a traffic accident and he's bleeding out. She shouted, I gotta go. Sorry, Ishido. We're going to have to continue this later, They both gasped before she then leapt off again into the blue skies, leaving them watching from below. Part 03, Reignite the Ashes. Across the city, there was a tragic incident on full display for everyone in the area. A large transport truck had crashed into a young white-haired boy and threw him down the road. The police were on site as well as an ambulance parked nearby, overlooking the severely wounded boy. Because of the impact, the child was suffering from a concussion and his blood almost covered his entire face. His eyelids were heavy, fighting with all their might to keep his eyes open. But the pain was slowly causing him to black out, his hearing also waning at the same time. So much of the noise around him was blurring together. Child, loudly crying, tears pouring down his cheeks. Driver, I swear, officers. I looked away for just a second. I didn't think the kid would. Child's mother, oh sweetie. Thank God you're all right. Paramedic number 1, he's going under. Hang in there, kiddo. Paramedic number 2, does anyone know whose child this is? Please speak up if you do. As he was close to passing out, he saw someone else arriving at the scene, but he wasn't capable of making out who it was. The figure was Deku, just arriving in his battlesuit. He quickly scanned the accident before seeing the wounded child, hurrying over. Paramedics, Deku, gasp, hey. Can you hear me? Hang on. Presses an earpiece, Uravity. Come in. Are you there? Unable to take the pain anymore, the child blacked out just as Izuku was calling for Uraraka's help. The only thing he could hear now was the sound of his heartbeat. While later, approximately half the day passed since the accident and the child was quickly rushed to Jaka Hospital by the combined efforts of Uravity's float and Deku using his lightweight to safely move him into the ambulance. As the sun was now beginning to set outside the windows, the boy is laying motionless in a hospital bed with an 4 in his arm, bandages wrapped around his head and other wounds on his body, and his face was cleaned of the blood. Though he was out cold, his ears picked up a few key moments of speech. Doctor, he's lost a lot of blood. I don't know if we'll have enough time to get a transfusion set up. Deku, excuse me, doctor? You said his blood type is O? Nurse, YS? Deku, then please. Give him my blood. I'm the same type. It shouldn't take long at all. Uravity, Deku, doctor, Beeb, he's already lost a lot. Deku, please. I want to help him. He deserves even a sliver of hope at surviving. Doctor, light gasp, all right. Thank you, Midoriya. Maybe, if it's your blood, we can make a miracle happen. The clock in his hospital room read 5:47 p.m. as the setting sun's light peeked through the nearby room. At his side was the likes of Izuku and Achiko along with an extra visitor. Seated at the boy's side was Eri, using her rewind in small doses by resting her hand on his chest to help with recovery. Though a lot of time had passed, everyone's hard work began to show as the boy's eyes slowly began to open again. He had bright hazel-colored eyes as his hearing came back, picking up Izuku and Eri's conversation. Oh, he's waking up, Eri said cheerfully. Izuku sighed heavily, along with Achiko. Thank goodness. You really are a miracle worker, Eri, he said. The boy's eyes slowly shifted towards Deku, seeing he was in casual clothing but with a strand of bandage wrapped around his right arm, evident of the transfusion procedure. Soon, both Izuku and Achiko turned their attention to him. Hey, you feeling any better? Achiko asked softly, rubbing his head. The boy groaned, looking around him before turning back to Izuku. If you're wondering, you're at Jaka Hospital. The doctors had to do a blood transfusion while you were unconscious. They weren't sure if you were going to make it. But you're a real trooper, he said. Achiko nodded, commenting that the police said the reports from witnesses was that he was trying to save another kid from being hit. You have the heart of a hero, just like All Might. Izuku continued. But a look of confusion still plagued the child's face. W happened? The boy muttered. What is my brother? The others gasped. Brother? Did the police say anything about his family? Eri asked. Izuku shook his head. The mother of the other child said she didn't know him. No one else recognized him either. Achiko said. You mean that his parents weren't anywhere to be seen? Eri asked. The boy slowly tried to get up in bed, Aries rewind allowing him to sit without serious injury to his body. But Achiko still advised him to take it easy before he looked Izuku in the eyes. Heard someone's voice earlier. "Was that you?" he asked. Izuku looked confused at first before they both glanced at his bandaged arm. "Oh, yeah. The doctors transferred my blood to you. You probably heard my voice during the procedure," he replied. "We probably haven't been introduced yet. My name's Izuku Midoriya, a licensed pro hero that was there to help. But you can call me by my hero name, Deku." Achiko then introduced herself, chiming in mention of her name, Uravity, before introducing Eri. "My name's Kazuto. Mr. Deku," the boy said, tears beginning to well up in his eyes. "Thank you so much. You saved my life." Izuku softly smiled before gently placing his hand atop his head. "It's okay. That's just what heroes do," he said. "You should take it easy and let your body recover. We won't be going anywhere anytime soon." Achiko looked to Izuku. "But what about his family?" "I didn't hear any confirmation about his family until he mentioned a brother," she said. Hearing those words appeared to hit Kazuto hard, everyone gasping from surprise, as he welled up with tears and started crying more. But he was trying to hold it back this time. "And my parents? They'd abandoned the two of us. All because we were born quirkless," he exclaimed, sobbing in between his words. Izuku gasped, eyes shaking, as he thought back to his mom comforting him and then to him asking All Might his question. "Is it possible to become a hero, even if I don't have a quirk? I'm just a normal kid without any powers. Could I ever hope to be somebody like you?" Achiko was utterly shaken, covering her mouth while Eri's mouth simply hung open. She began having flashbacks to the incident that led her to be abandoned by her birth mother and eventually in the claws of Overhaul. "That's horrible," Achiko shouted. Izuku's eyes grew stern as his story continued. "Since we were 6, me and my brother have been living on the streets. He goes missing and I try to find him, leading me to saving a total stranger that I thought was him. I can't believe that I almost died for nothing," Kazuto exclaimed. Izuku quickly moved in, kneeling down next to his bed and wrapped his arms around him. Kazuto's eyes widened as soon as he felt Izuku's hug. "Izuku!" Eri exclaimed. He began rubbing the back of his head with his hand, the boy's tears becoming trails down his cheeks while unable to process what was happening. But he somehow couldn't help but grip onto Izuku's clothes from behind. "Don't look down on your accomplishments, Kazuto. You saved that child's life, even if it meant getting hurt yourself. You are amazing." Izuku said softly, "It'll be okay. I'll help you find your brother. I swear, both of you boys are going to be okay. I promise." Kazuto's eyes slowly looked towards him when, just then, there came a knock at the door. Entering was the likes of the elderly Toshinori and another man in a doctor's jacket. The man had short slick brown hair, beard stubble and a pair of under-rim glasses. In Toshinori's hands was bags of takeout from a fast food joint, meant for Izuku and the others. "Hey Midoriya. Sorry I was late. Not only was the place crowded, but I also ran into this gentleman when I arrived. He said he was looking for you, I think?" Toshinori explained. The doctor approached Izuku as the two moved away from the hug. "Pardon me. I don't mean to intrude, but you're Izuku Midoriya, correct?" he asked, offering a hand. "My name is Dr. Takeda Takashi, a specialist in the study of quirk evolution theories. I've wanted to meet you for a long time now." Toshinori took his place at the boy's side as Izuku shook the doctor's hand. Hello. I'm Izuku all right, but you can call me Deku. Is there something I can help you with?" he asked. Takashi looked at the boy in the bed before looking back to Izuku. "Well, I can see you must be busy with this young man. But if you can spare a few minutes, can we talk in the hallway?" he asked. Izuku glimpsed towards his friends before seeing Toshinori giving him a thumbs up. "Sure. Let's talk outside," he said. He followed Takashi outside just as Toshinori handed the food to everyone else. Izuku leaned against the door shortly after closing it, Takashi clearing his throat before continuing. "Deku, I was out of Japan when the League of Villains overtook the country, doing research into the evolution of quirks of American citizens. I wasn't able to come back to the country until after the rebuilding was completed and the airlines opened again, he explained, but I will say that I do know about the efforts and contributions you gave to the heroes when faced with an overwhelming evil such as All for One. It was all over the news channels from the hotel I was staying at. Your quirk, One for All, greatly sparked my curiosity. Izuku lightly gasped before looking away, slightly dejected. I'm sorry to tell you this, but I no longer have One for All. I destroyed my quirk in order to defeat All for One, to save Japan and those I cared for. The embers are long gone as well, he said. Dr. Takashi seemed a bit shaken at first, pausing briefly to ponder, before looking back to Izuku. I see. I had no idea it worked that way, he said, falling silent again. Izuku nodded, apologizing for crushing his hopes. But the doctor suddenly put his hand on his shoulders, causing him to look back. But I can work with this. Dash? Sorry. I mean, Mr. Midoriya? What if I said the fruits of my research can be of great use to you? What if I told you we have the means to reignite the smolders of One for All? He asked, looking sternly at him. Izuku gasped, shaken to his core by the doctor's proposal. Why, you mean, you have a way to revive One for All? He asked, making sure he heard correct. Takashi nodded. From what All Might told me, One for All is a quirk that was built off the combined growth passed down from previous wielders before you inherited it as the ninth. It was a source of great power that he used to make sure those who needed a hero's aid got it. Takashi continued, my results have shown that quirk awakenings can, in special instances, be tied to the strength of our core beliefs and our connections to those we cherish, sowing the seeds needed for it to evolve and grow. I believe the ties you have with your friends from you today, as well as your family and Mr. Tashinori, have the potential to reawaken One for All's core to let you wield it again. While they continued talking and Tashinori tended to Kazuto, Ochako was leaning against the door eavesdropping on them. Deku, she muttered. Hold on. This is a lot to take in at once. Izuku shouted. Like I said, I had to essentially destroy my quirk in order to bring down All for One. Whatever is left in me is long gone. Dr. Takashi shook his head. You say that, but I have found scientific proof, in all my years of studying quirks, that those whose quirks become unusable because of our factors or physical conditions still leave behind what is comparable to a lingering flame within its user, like a wick of a candle that can be used again, he said, making Izuku gasp. I strongly believe that we can reawaken One for All, even if it's reduced to smolders. But the decision is ultimately yours. He then extended a hand to him again, leaving Izuku dead silent. I wish to offer you this proposal, Izuku Midoriya. Will you lend yourself to the future of my research? If you do, I promise, no. I swear to do all I am physically capable of, to reawaken One for All so you can regain your quirk. He said, if you need the consent of your friends and family, I'll make the same proposal to them. I want to make sure you are 100% comfortable before going any further. Your personal feelings will be my top priority from here on out. The hero didn't know what to say, looking on with eyes quaking from a rekindled flame of hope, the same that he felt when All Might told him those fateful words. Young man, you too can become a hero. His hand began shaking, hesitant to agree. But after remembering the growth he amassed while at UA and wielding his quirk to protect others, he grew the confidence to shake his hand. All right. I'll agree. Yes, he shouted. Dr. Takashi smiled, wiping a brief tear from his eye. Thank you, Deku. I promise to not let you down. I swear, he replied. Just then, there came a knock at the door behind him. Izuku looked back to see Tashinori, Ochako trying to hide her eavesdropping by casually whistling. I had a feeling you would accept, Midoriya, he said with a grin. In that case, don't forget these words. You earned the right to wield One for All with your own hands. And you have the support from not just me, but also from the vestiges of the previous wielders, my master included. Izuku nodded, sharing a fist bump with his master. Ochako then chimed in with her own fist, smiling brightly. You also have me backing you up, Deku, as well as the rest of our class. We chipped in to get you that prized battle suit, and we'll do it again if it means bringing back one for all. She said, after all, we've been a team since the beginning. Izuku then noticed Eri sneaking her hand in as well, her nod signifying she wished to help. Thanks, you guys, Izuku proclaimed, smiling purely with tears in his eyes. Remember, go beyond. Toshinori shouted. Plus ultra. Achiko and Izuku yelled in unison. From his bed, Kazuto watched on in silence. He was completely amazed by the number of people lending help to the hero that just saved his life. Mr. He muttered. Part 04, Gathering of Allies. Over the course of the next 4 days, Izuku worked together with Dr. Takashi in his quirk evolution research, promising him he would find a way to reignite the flame of one for all inside him. The first day mostly consisted of him running diagnostic scan, following up with a brain scan, instructing Izuku to think back on his previous battles and memories of One for All. The next day was Dr. Takashi fulfilling his part of the deal by meeting with and collecting samples of DNA from each of his classmates from UA High and others close to him. He was able to get strands of hair from most of his friends, including the likes of Toshinori, Koda, Eri, and Inko, while having to draw blood from those who lacked hair. The special cases were the likes of Hagakure, Mineta, and Koji. As an extra precaution, he was able to obtain samples from other pro heroes, including Aizawa, Mandalay, Recovery Girl, and Gran Torino. The third day, Izuku met with Takashi in his on-site laboratory at Jaka Hospital after doing his morning rounds of the city. Morning, Izuku. Sleep okay? He asked, seated at his desk. Izuku nodded. Yeah. How did things go with my friends? Izuku responded. Takashi smiled before wheeling his chair aside to show him. On his desk computer was the DNA structures and factors of the quirks taken from each of his friends and loved ones. They were very easy to converse with. You do have such wonderful classmates, Izuku. When I told them it was an attempt of reawake One for All, they didn't hesitate to agree. However, let's just say it was a bit difficult when I went to visit your childhood friend Dynamite, he explained, recalling his short fuse by the doctor trying to clip his hair. The mere mention of Bakugo's hero name brought a look of shame to Izuku's face, laughing in an embarrassed tone while picturing his rage-filled expression. Let me guess. You made him wig out that before he said he would do it himself? He asked. Takashi nodded. In the case of Toshinori and your mother, I collected an extra sample of their blood due to your close ties with them both. Your mother is for obvious reasons, and as for All Might, he was also a wielder of One for All as well as the man who passed it on to you. His readings are especially interesting given the history of your quirk factors at work during your prime. The doctor continued, with all this, I will be attempting to see if I can overlap it with your data and see how a sample of your DNA would react to your friend's quirk factors. Izuku lightly smiled, thanking Takashi but telling him that he was in no hurry and to make sure to rest. Just then, the doctor's stomach growled loudly, turning his face red. Heh, looks like I forgot to eat. Such is what happens when you're engrossed in your work, he retorted. Want me to grab you something from the cafeteria? Izuku offered. Takashi politely declined, saying he just had to find the bag lunch he stashed somewhere nearby. A knock came at the door, Izuku glimpsing over his shoulder. Pardon the intrusion. But, we were told this is where we'd be able to find the pro hero, Deku? A voice asked. Izuku lightly gasped as he quickly could recognize the voice by its tone. Takashi shouted back that they were in the right place as the door then opened, revealing the visitors as Shuichi and Atsuhiro, known by their villain identities as Spinner and Mr. Compress while they were working with the League of Villains. Sorry to interrupt. But can we talk in private, kid? Shuichi asked. Izuku's gaze sterned, agreeing despite not knowing what was happening. At the same time, back at Izuku's home, thanks to Eri's aid in boosting his recovery, Kazuto was taken in by Inko thanks to the duo speaking up for him. But it was no longer at the apartment complex that he had grown up in. Due in part to the amount of money Izuku earned because of his pro-hero work, he was able to afford his own house and invited Inko to move in with him. It allowed for more space for their belongings. Izuku's room, Also his off-site office for hero work was decorated with his All Might merch. Hanging on his wall was not just a framed copy of his old journal that All Might signed, but he also had a drawing commissioned. It was, based off his memory alone, the faces of the previous wielders of One for All from Yoichi to All Might and himself. They has a large backyard that Inko was using to make herself a garden of her own. "You poor baby. I'm so sorry that happened to you," Inko shouted while hugging Kazuto. "Any mother that willingly abandoned their child for petty reasons like that is no mother in my book." Kazuto couldn't believe how kind Inko was, seeing a reflection of Deku in her. Achiko chuckled. "She's just like him, right?" Achiko asked, having noticed his expression. "Yeah. Wow." Kazuto muttered in amazement. Having left the hospital, Kazuto was given hand-me-down clothes from Izuku's childhood as his former were left a tattered and bloodied mess from the incident. Inko smiled, rubbing the top of his head while he sat in her lap. The feeling of being loved by a mother had him in a state of happiness but also feeling embarrassed for being coddled, unwilling to speak back though. Inko glimpsed towards Achiko. "Achiko? Can I ask you something?" she asked. "What is it, Inko? Do you need me to do something for you?" Achiko asked. Inko shook her head. "No, not really. But I wanted to know how you feel about my boy, Izuku," she asked. His name caused Achiko's cheeks to blush red, looking away sheepishly. "Why you too?" she asked, Inko looking confused. "Sheesh. It feels like I've been dogged by everyone, my friends and mother, about if I have feelings for Deku. I didn't expect his mom to be added to that list." Inko raised her hand, apologizing if she was bothering her by her question. But Achiko shook her head. "It's all right. Maybe, since you're his mother, you can help me too," she said. "If I'm being honest, I don't know how to deal with this myself. Whenever we are together, I hesitate to tell him. I mean, with our work as pro heroes and all the time we get to spend nowadays, what if that throws a monkey wrench into it?" "Oh, Achiko, sweetie," she replied. "Then again, it's probably my own fault for not letting him know sooner. He has been trying just as hard as the rest of us, even more so because he was carrying One for All. I supported him whenever he needed me, and he's definitely returned the favor and then some." She continued, "I was so focused on becoming stronger and on my goals so that I wouldn't want to be a burden to him or to have these feelings interfering." She glimpsed down at her hand. "I've been at my wit's end on multiple occasions and almost all the time it's about our relationship." Achiko continued, "Is it wrong that I want to tell him I love him? How would that make him feel?" Her memories of the exhausted renegade Izuku being harassed and her speech from the rooftop came back, his flood of tears clear as day. Inko smiled, surprising Achiko. "I don't think it's wrong at all, honey. Just from the sound of your voice, I can tell you want to respect him. But, do you want to know something?" she asked. She nodded as Kazuto gazed at Inko. It was right around his first week or so at UA and all he could talk about was the number of pro heroes he met, being able to study under All Might, as well as how amazed he was by his friends. She said, "As time went on, he only sung your praises more and more. He'd actually bring you up the most, Achiko." Achiko lightly gasped. "I was so happy that my Izuku had made so many wonderful friends at UA. I felt so relieved that he was coming out of his shell more," she continued, wiping a tear away. "When you kids were moved to the dorms, he kept sending me letters about you all were doing. It helped me stay at ease despite him being so far away. But he never stopped highlighting your accomplishments. You've become quite the figure in his life." She began rubbing Kazuto's head again. "And recently, when he comes home, he's constantly asking me for advice on dating, how to impress a girl or how I met his father. By now, it's easy to say, he's having the same trouble you are. If that helps you in any way, just know he's in the same boat as you. At the end of the day, just remember that you're only human despite your job as heroes," she finished, shedding a smile. Achiko blushed more, imagining her and Izuku sitting in a boat together. They both had their backs to each other and were just twiddling their fingers while occasionally glimpsing at the other. "Izuku," Achiko muttered. Meanwhile, returning to outside Jaka Hospital, Izuku took to a bench with Shuichi and Atsuhiro. Each of them had a canned drink in their hand while he sat between the two ex-villains. The air was rather heavy, nobody sure if they should speak first or not. Should I begin, Spinner? Atsuhiro asked. Shuichi glimpsed before shaking his head, sighing afterwards. A couple days ago we got to speaking with All Might. We had some questions and he told us about the truth about All for One's plans. He also highlighted on what All for One really wanted out of Shigaraki, the lizard said. Izuku lightly gasped, remembering Shigaraki's face. Neither of us had any idea that man was going to literally wear him like a flesh suit, and I sat in a prison cell throughout the rest of my comrades' battles. Toga, Dabi, Kurogiri, he told us everything about them as well. Atsuhiro continued, in a way, I was glad to hear they continued fighting for their own reasons. But that we're all that's left of our old little club. Shuichi lightly growled, clenching his chin tighter as he thought of All for One's devious smirk. Just the fact All for One and Garaki were trying to mutate my only friend just so he could move in, even going as far as manipulate every part of his life, makes me furious, he growled. I should have done something to stop him. I should have talked Shigaraki's Tenko out of it. And as if to add injury to insult, Stain chose to fight back with all might before that BS sturdy stole his quirk and killed him. What was I thinking? Izuku quickly put his hand on the lizard's shoulder, doing what he could to ease his rising temper. Shuichi noticed and began taking calming breaths, thanking him. What Shuichi is trying to say, Midoriya, is that he's sorry for the spiteful things he said to you years ago. Atsuhiro intervened. Shuichi nodded. The moment in question was when Izuku was face to face with Spinner after the war ended, sitting in an interrogation room. Oh, it's no problem. You don't have to apologize. And, if I'm honest, I wasn't sure if I should have told you about what happened. If you knew, especially after what you went through, I thought you would have burst into an uncontrollable fit and lose control of yourself. Izuku said, All for One used all of you, all for his own evil agenda. Atsuhiro looked out at the people and cars passing by. Since we were released from prison thanks to good behavior, we've been wondering what's next for us. Would it be worth it to revive the League without our former comrades? After everything that happened? Of the original League of Villains that were all that's left. He continued, we weren't sure. But, Shuichi later told me he wanted to speak with you. I only tagged along for moral support. Izuku lightly smiled, looking between the two of them. Your octopus friend has already done a lot for other heteromorphs while I rotted in prison, and I knew for sure I wasn't about to start another riot anytime soon. Shuichi added, I guess, at the end of it all, we've been having a bit of identity crisis. Izuku rested his hand atop Shuichi's scaly one. If it'll help, maybe you could see this as your chances to plot out a new future? To redeem yourselves. Izuku said, your friends might be gone, but you could use your quirks and experiences for positive motives while keeping their spirits alive. He looked towards Atsuhiro, Shuichi scratching his head. Mr. Compress, you could become a hero if you were to improve on your quirk and used it to help. Even if you didn't want to, you could find good work in other areas thanks to it. Your power to shrink and encapsulate anything would be a great asset to those working in industry or other heavy lifting jobs, he said. He then turned to Shuichi. And Spinner? Your book about the League was a surprise hit with audiences who were interested in you. It shined new light on each of you, allowing others to understand your lives and motives. You could maybe try and use your writing talent to publish more stories or self-help books, he continued, or you could work with Tentacle and work to improve the lives of the other heteromorphs. It's not too late for either of you to turn your lives around. The two looked at each other as Izuku fell silent. I have to admit, Captain Compress does have a nice ring to it. Atsuhiro laughed, stroking his chin. After all, look at what became of Gentle Criminal. His life greatly improved after he left the villain gig behind. Shuichi glimpsed down towards his hands. I'll think about it, he said. Thanks for hearing us out. And thanks for sticking up for Tenko when it really mattered. Izuku lightly smiled. If either of you ever need help, feel free to contact me. If I'm out, I'm sure Centipeder and Bubble Girl will let me know right away, he said. Atsuhiro smirked. Well, look who's been stepping up in the world. Never would have expected you, kiddo, he teased. Izuku merely shrugged and commented on how a lot has changed since the war ended. Shuichi looked down at his hands, letting out a silent sigh. As the days had come and gone for Izuku and friends, Garaki continued putting the finishing touches on his newest monster. Sensors and tubes were now placed all across its body. The evil doctor kept watch of his monitors of the creature's growth and its vitals, heart beat at a stable rate. As he looked at the numbers, a big grin came across his face. Excellent. You're maturing just as I knew you would. Things are going along as planned, he said, turning back to the creature in his chair. In about 48 hours, you'll be complete and set loose upon Japan. And when the dust settles from your destructive rampage, Izuku and his foolish friends will be gone, along with the remainder of those annoying heroes. He rose from his chair and approached the glass, pressing his hand against it. Of all the Nomu I've ever created, including what I once called my masterpieces, I'd say you are my true greatest work. So I think it's about time you had a name befitting of your perfection. He said, I know. From this moment on, your name is Aku. With the number of quirks I've infused into you, only you will decide who deserves life or death. From inside, the creature let out a low yet satanic laugh thanks to its recently mutated mouth. Razor-sharp teeth peeked through its lips. Part 05. Class 1A reunites. Another day passed, Izuku arriving home to see Kazuto dressed in his old clothing. Achiko was there to witness him, somewhat surprised that the only spare clothes she had was his old All Might clothes. The girls only laughed as Izuku looked on flustered. Achiko then stayed for dinner with the Midoriya family before bidding goodbye to Izuku. As the next day began, Izuku once again returned to Dr. Takashi's office to ask how his research was. But upon arrival, he saw the doctor was completely passed out from exhaustion on the floor. He hadn't gotten much sleep, his work keeping his focus throughout the night. Hey, Dr. Takashi, are you okay? Izuku asked, shaking him awake. The doctor lightly snorted before waking up. Who? What? Izuku. Sorry. I must have been working way too much these last couple of days, he said, laughing from embarrassment. After being woken, he asked Izuku if he would pardon him as he cleaned up. Once done, he showed Izuku a light silver fluid in a vial by his computer before picking it up. Izuku, this is it. This is what I have been working to produce these last sleepless nights. It's meant to reinvigorate your quirk factors and hopefully relight the flames of One for All's ashes, he said with great excitement. It may take time to fully take effect, but I have a 80% guarantee that this will work. Izuku silently looked on, picturing All Might in his prime against the reflection of the glass. Are you sure? He asked, Takashi setting the vial aside. I know you did all this for me. You've definitely earned my trust with how diligent you worked. But some part of me is hesitant. If it does reanimate One for All, is my body going to be able to withstand its incredible power again? He looked away with a sigh as Takashi put a hand on his shoulder. I understand. You have doubts, he said, the two looking on at each other, and that's perfectly fine. You don't have to take it if you don't want to. Could give me more time to make sure it's perfected. But, can I tell you something? It may be somewhat selfish. Izuku raised a brow. Another reason for wanting to work with you to bring One for All back. It isn't for any personal or profitable reasons. But when I heard about the history behind the quirk, I thought that Japan should find a way to restore and preserve it for the betterment of the future. It may not happen anytime soon, even decades from now, but it would be worth having a hero with this quirk if someone on the same level as All for One was to appear. He explained, do you understand? Izuku nodded. Yeah. I do, he replied softly. He glimpsed back at the vial. Would you maybe give me some time to think about it? I'll call you if I change my mind. Izuku asked. Takashi nodded with a confident grin. Sure. After all we've been through, I think I've gotten to know you a lot more, Deku. Take all the time you need, he replied before something else came to mind. Oh, that's right. I recently received an email from your friend, Kriati, about wanting to meet up with you and the others for a class reunion get-together. She extended an invitation to me as well. Did you get the notice? Izuku nodded. It's later this afternoon. I wouldn't miss it for anything. Class 1A barely gets together much anymore since we graduated. I can't wait to see everyone again. Izuku said, the two chuckling together. He then told Takashi that he had to make some last-minute preparations before leaving. Donning his battlesuit, Izuku took great leaps across the city as his cape flowed behind him with each jump. I wonder, am I fit to wield one for all again? There's no longer a need since all for one has been gone for so long. But maybe Dr. Takashi has a point. What if we do have someone appear in the future that's on par with him? He thought. Eventually, Izuku landed in the downtown streets of Mizudafu. Recalling his suit, he walked inside of a jewelry store and saw the likes of Ryuko eyeing the display cases. What are you doing here, Ryuko? He asked. She glimpsed back before, with a light chuckle, turned and waved to him. I could ask you the same question, Deku. You here getting something for yourself? She asked. Maybe you could help me pick something out for Mirko. Unless Eri told you she was going through treatment with Rewind and has successfully regained her hands and legs again. Izuku gasped. Really? That's great. Eri's quirk is really amazing, he laughed. Ryuko nodded. I told her she should consider a career as a support hero or doctor if she wanted to help more people. There are definitely some war-wounded heroes that would benefit from Rewind's power, she continued. Still smiling, Izuku looked down at the case in front of him and lightly gasped at the sight of a small ring bearing a pink diamond atop it. Just then, the shop owner approached. Welcome. What can I do for you too? He asked, gasping when he realized his clients. Oh, forgive me. I almost didn't recognize you, Ryuko, or you, Mr. Deku. Izuku chuckled, saying jewelry stores weren't where he usually visits. He then looked back at the ring before pointing to it. How much is that ring? I'm considering buying it, he asked. The owner fished the ring out of the display before showing it to him. You have good taste, Deku. This is our store's special Sakura diamond ring. Normally, it fetches quite a hefty price because of how rare the gemstone is. It would roughly be about 300,000 yen. Izuku gasped. For something that's small? He exclaimed, Ryuko laughing. The owner laughed as well before pulling aside a ring box and placing it inside. He then moved it closer to him, surprising him. But for the hero who risked everything for our sakes, before he even graduated you, I'm willing to part with it as a thank you gift. I have a feeling it's for someone special that you chose this particular ring. So consider it my store's way of thanking you for reminding everyone what a true hero is. And even after how we evacuees at UA treated you before, he said, recalling how he was within earshot of the mob screaming for his rejection. But you don't have to do that for me. Really? I'd be willing to pay you, sir, he shouted, feelings conflicted. Ryuko suddenly brought out her credit card and flashed it to the owner. Then, allow me to pay for it, Midoriya, she said, catching him off guard. Don't worry. You don't have to repay me. I already know who it's likely for, and I ask you make her happy. Izuku fell silent before picturing Uraraka wearing the ring, catching on that even she knew he loved her. Thank you. Really, he muttered, small tears forming in his eyes. Later on, it was late afternoon as the Class 1A students began convening at a small but fancy retreat owned by Yaoyorozu's family. They all arrived in their hero costumes, been given the notice that they didn't need to come in anything too fancy by Momo. Izuku was the latest to arrive as he saw just about everyone in the yard, deciding to show up in casual attire rather than use his mech suit. Hey, there he is. Midoriya. Kirishima shouted, waving his arm. Izuku waved back, rushing over towards him joined by Ojiro and Sato. Kirishima. Ojiro. Sato. It's so great to see you guys again, he exclaimed. Sato laughed. Yeah. No kidding. Work's been so much for me that I haven't been touched for a while. He said, sorry about that, Midoriya. But from the looks of it, nothing's slowed you down, huh? Just then, Izuku heard another voice calling out to him, looking to see Mina next to Yaoyorozu and Hagakure. The invisible girl waved her hands, so to be noticed. Midoriya. Over here. Ashido called. Momo walked over to him as they were soon joined by Ida. Izuku. There you are, he laughed. Oh hey Ida. How've you been? Izuku asked, shaking his hand. Momo chuckled. I'm glad you could find time to come. Welcome to the party, Midoriya, she said while offering him a drink. Ashido slyly slinked to his side and lightly poked his side. Hey Midoriya. Wanna know something juicy? She quietly asked, keeping her voice down. Hehehe. There's a little lady who. But before she could finish, Uraraka quickly appeared from behind and slapped her hands over Mina's gossiping lips. Don't dare, she yelled, anger and embarrassment present at the same time. Mina looked back, her voice muffled by Achiko, while Izuku chuckled. Nearby, Shinsho watched with a headshake. Momo sighed as well. Really, Ashido? You don't go gossiping about your friends like that, especially when they're in earshot of you, she reprimanded Ashido. Izuku felt a tap on his shoulder, looking to see Shoto with Mineta and Shiro. Hey there, Todoroki. Izuku gasped. Shoto quietly nodded with a smile. Suddenly, Mineta let out a gasp when he noticed Izuku's face. Dude, where did that big scar on your face go? He asked as he pointed to his cheek. Izuku lightly chuckled, scratching his cheek. Oh, it was thanks to this special masseuse that Achiko recommended. Along with the best massage I ever had, she had a quirk that boosted the natural recovery of wounds. Believe me, I thought I was dreaming when I saw it was gone. He explained, even the one on my arm and hands are gone. Shoto lightly tilted his head, looking confused. So, it's like you never had one for all. But are you okay? Remember you saying they were experiences you never wanted to forget about? Todoroki asked. At first, I figured they were part of my identity given what we've been through. But I somehow have felt more at ease since. My mom was certainly happy. Izuku laughed. Shiro smirked, betting it was so he could find himself a girlfriend without worrying about them appearing as a turn-off. Izuku gasped, Mineta snickering to himself. No comment, he replied, the two laughing more. Across the courtyard, Momo was talking with Jiro and Kaminari. How was your trip, Jiro? I hoped you both had a great time touring Europe, she asked. Jiro nodded. Yeah. Actually, we've been trying to think of a proper way to thank you for that, she replied. Seriously, Yaoyorozu, you didn't have to go that far for us. But we appreciate it. Kaminari added. Speaking of which, how have things been with the times you visited Endeavor? I think I have a good idea who somebody has eyes on. You only visit to see Todoroki, aren't you? Jiro groaned, elbowing him. Dude, she retorted. Momo began blushing, twiddling her fingers. If I would be honest, you aren't too far off, Kaminari, she said. Jiro and Kaminari simultaneously gasped. No way! Jiro exclaimed. Suddenly, everyone stopped when they heard someone clapping their hands. All eyes turned to see Aizawa appearing alongside the likes of Present Mike, Cementos and All Might. Alright, everybody calm down. Hope you weren't planning to gossiping between yourselves all night. Aizawa said in a monotone tone. Mike laughed, throwing his arm over his shoulder. Cementos watched from behind with a laugh. But lighten up, Tracerhead. They're not students anymore, so I don't think you need to be bossing them around like that. Besides, Class 1A has been so busy as heroes that this is a big night for them, he explained. Toshinori nodded. He's right. Honestly, I'm surprised you were able to make it, Aizawa. Has the retired life not improved your mood? He asked, the latter groaning to himself. Whatever. I suppose they do earn this. He shrugged. Just then, Izuku noticed Dr. Takashi arriving alongside Eri and Kazuto, the boy still wearing his hand-me-down clothing. So this is the famous Class 1A of UA High School? The ones who took on so many notorious villains since they were only first years. Takashi teased. Kazuto quickly noticed Izuku and, feeling shy, waved back. He felt a push from behind, Takashi letting him know he could hang around Izuku if he wanted. Eri agreed and took his hand, bringing him along with her. Did you sleep okay, Kazuto? Sorry I wasn't there to greet you when you wake up. But I know my mom's been dotting on you, hasn't she? He asked. Kazuto blushed. I don't hate it or anything, he muttered. Some of Izuku's classmates slowly began to join him by his side. Oh, so you must be the kid that Izuku donated his blood to, the one caught in that major car accident. That must have been way scary for someone your age. Ojiro said. The young man was about to speak before Kirishima patted Kazuto's back, lightly jostling him. Still, that was way manly, kiddo. I heard the reporters wrote about you throwing yourself to protect another kid. You already got my respect, little hero, he proudly proclaimed. As Hagakure wanted to shake his hand, her invisible body caught him off guard and he fumbled back with a shriek, colliding against Ishido. She began ruffling his hair. You sound just like Midoriya. Did you know our Midoriya made his start like you did? He went rushing to help his best friend, Bakugo, from being captured by a villain, and all before they entered high school. She chimed in. From afar, Bakugo's voice could be heard, nearly scaring the pants off Yuga. Shut it, Pinky. Nobody wants to hear that, he screamed, scaring Kazuto and made him rush behind Izuku's legs. Izuku nervously chuckled, patting his head. Don't mind him. Despite his scary exterior, Kaken is a good person when you get to know him. We're actually childhood friends, he said. Kazuto looked up, bafflement riddling his expression. What kind of kid would want a big mouth like that as a childhood friend? He thought. Just then, Izuku saw Bakugo approach. So, do you feel any sparks coming from One for All yet? The doc told us he had finished his experiment. He asked. Izuku lightly gasped, looking away with anxiety on his face. His friends were quick to notice. Midoriya? Is everything okay? Kirishima asked. I haven't taken it yet. If I'm honest, I was worried I wouldn't be able to handle it again, he stuttered. Some of them sighed but others respected his worries and some looked worried. Midoriya, we all chipped in because we wanted to help. It's the same as when we came together to pay for that battlesuit. Ojiro said, then again, caution has always been a quirk of yourself. I get you may be a little uneasy. Todoroki placed his hand on Izuku's shoulders. We all knew you worked hard to keep the embers alive after your fight with All for One. And I always had a gut feeling you wished you could have kept it going longer. After all, you used to be quirkless, he said. Kazuto gasped upon hearing Shoto's words, looking up at Izuku. Ichi was just like me, he thought. Just then, Achiko walked over and took Izuku's hand. You should accept it, We all came together because we cared about you. Even if you don't get the grips of One for All right away, you know we'll be here to help. Each step of the way too. She smiled, you don't have to worry about hiding it from anyone anymore. His friends began giving nods or encouraging words to Izuku as they gathered around him. Bakugo also approached him, showing his eagerness for their rivalry to continue with the look in his eyes. With the other teachers, Toshinori was watching from afar with a smile. It's your choice, young man. You earned One for All with your hard work and dedication when I first met you, and now you have so many others willing to stand by you. If you were given a chance to do it all over again, I think we both knew you wouldn't hesitate, just like back then too. He thought, I'm sure even the original wielder would still approve. Izuku looked around at his friends gathering by his side, Eri included, trying to stop himself from crying. He had memories of their school life flooding through his mind like a vicious torrent, warming his heart with each new one that came back. He suddenly looked towards Dr. Takashi? Who wouldn't happen to have brought it with you, would you? He asked. Takashi was taken aback slightly, but smiled and nodded. Like I said, it's your choice at the end, Izuku. But if I could speak frankly, you have some pretty amazing friends, not hesitating to come together for their classmate, he said while pulling the vial from his pocket. He passed it to him, the others looking on with anticipation. Like before, he looked at his reflection against the tube and began imagining All Might's prideful smile before he began picturing the other wielders as well. Well, here goes nothing, he thought, bringing the vial to his lips. One for all, if you're still lingering within me, let me borrow your power once again. He began drinking the silver fluid down before taking a big swallow. He shuddered slightly, not a fan of the taste. So, what's supposed to happen now? Yuga asked. Achiko moved closer, asking Izuku if he was feeling any different or if nothing changed. He rubbed his stomach. I don't think anything's going to change suddenly. Takashi said, it'll take time for it to spread. I'd guess in the next few days, if nothing happens, we'll have our answer. Izuku nodded, looking back to a smiling Toshinori. A look of embarrassment suddenly came to his face, catching him off guard. But it tasted somewhat better than having to ingest a strand of All Might's hair, he replied, Toshinori gawking with eyes widened. His classmates all reacted differently, laughing and acting grossed out while some stared at Toshinori. No way! Is that how you got the quirk before? Ashido shouted, nasty! Bakugo began laughing his butt off, clutching his stomach. Mineta looked ready to puke, as did Yuga and Kaminari. That is all kinds of wrong. Why didn't taste hairspray or some other greasy stuff, did you? Jiro shouted. Bakugo laughed harder, bracing himself on Izuku's shoulder. You dim a nerd. Haha, that's how you got your quirk, huh? I only wish I got a good look at your stupid face, he exclaimed while laughing. Toshinori began waving his hands in a panic as more eyes looked his way. Hey, listen to me. In order to pass one for all to Midoriya, he had to swallow some of my DNA. It wasn't how I would have done it. That's just how it works, he proclaimed. He then saw Aizawa and Present Mic giving him disgusted looks. Is that how you got it too, All Might? Aizawa asked with a brow raised. Don't make me answer that, Aizawa, he exclaimed. As the others continued laughing or retching, Achiko simply chuckled softly so she wasn't noticed. But she soon saw Izuku looking her way, quickly looking away and whistling to herself. Maybe I shouldn't have brought that up. Then again that was nothing compared to the workout he put me through beforehand, he thought. Part 06. The Calm Before the Storm. As the party continued into the evening, stars beginning to fill up the night sky above, Yaoyorozu began to call everyone's attention by tapping against a glass. May I have everyone's attention? Your class representative and vice president would like to make a proposal. Momo called. Ida followed up by inviting everyone into a group photo to commemorate the night. A group photo? I always feel gypped whenever my picture is taken. No one will see me except for my gloves and boots. Hagakure said. Ojiro lightly chuckled. It's okay, Hagakure. Maybe you should ask Momo if you can borrow a shirt or something, he replied. As they started getting ready, Kirishima looked around confused. What are you doing, Kirishima? Bakugo asked. Has anyone seen Midoriya or Uraraka? He asked. We can't have the photo without them. Ida paused to think. I believe Uraraka said she had to use the bathroom, so I let her use the one inside. Momo explained, as for Midoriya, I think he had to take a call. Ashido's horns shot straight out as she grew the look of an excited kitten. Azui happened to notice, catching her attention. Don't even try it. Rip it, she said, Ashido heavily sighing afterwards. In actuality, Izuku and Achiko had adjourned to a quiet place in the gardens nearby. They quietly stared up at the starry sky, standing at each other's side. A gentle breeze whisked by them. Inside their heads, they were thinking the exact same. See, come on, Izuku. You can do this. Just tell Achiko how you really feel about her. See, come on, Achiko. You can do this. Just tell Deku how you really feel about him. Izuku slowly moved his hand towards hers. But just as he was about to touch her, it came to a halt. But Achiko happened to notice and reached back to hold his, surprising Izuku greatly. Oh, sorry. I wasn't trying to, he shouted. Achiko silently shook her head. It's okay, De. I actually wanted to ask you something, she said, clenching tighter. Will you hear me out? Izuku saw her cheeks beginning to turn red as she turned to him with anxiety on her face. Her eyes were lightly shaking as well. He could tell that she wanted to say something but was worried about harming their friendship. To calm her down, he took both of her hands and gently held them. Actually, would it be okay if I went first? He whispered, making Achiko gasp. He began blushing as well, fighting with his worries to manage his next sentences. His time speaking with Toshinori and Inko wormed their way into his head, both telling him to just let it out naturally and try not to overthink it. He took a moment to take a deep breath before reaching into the pocket of his jacket, taking out the ring. Seeing it made Achiko gasp. "Deku?" she muttered, tears beginning to build up as he slowly placed it on her finger. She then looked back to Izuku, the young man also showing signs of tearing up. "Achiko, this has been something I wanted to say. Beeb, I couldn't say it properly before. It's been weighing on me, but now I think I'm ready," he said. Achiko waiting in anticipation. "Why, me too." She stuttered, trying to hold back her tears. Izuku lightly gasped but kept his smile as he held her hand. "Achiko Uraraka, I love you," he continued, the tears finally dripping down her face. "Ever since we first met at the entrance exam, you've always had my back in helping me through my hardest times. I wanted to tell you so badly, but I guess I never even noticed. I was so fixated on bettering myself so I could keep up with everyone." Just then he felt Achiko's hand move atop his own, making sure to keep one finger up as to not trigger zero gravity. "No. I mean," she said with a sniffle, "Izuku Midoriya, I love you too." Izuku's gaze softened as she held him tightly. "I've been holding back my own emotions for so long. Ever since we were going to train at summer camp, I knew I had a crush on you. But I put those feelings aside, so I could focus on improving myself for the sake of my own goals. I didn't want to be a burden to anyone else either, especially you." She leaned into his chest, letting out sniffles as they held each other's hands. Izuku rested his head against hers. "But, after all we've been through, I'm saying it now, because I don't want to lose you," she continued. Izuku softly chuckled. "Looks like we both needed time to mature." Izuku muttered, making Achiko laugh, followed by himself. They then looked each other in the eyes before, started by Achiko, they leaned in for a gentle but meaningful kiss. Their tense feelings felt like they were being washed away the longer they kissed. They remained fixated on the other as their lips drew apart, still holding each other's hands. If you'd like, maybe we could go on a real date sometime? I've had so many ideas for places we could go. But I want to make sure we both have the time," he continued. "If it's for you, Izu, I'd gladly make time. I'd like more us time, now that we cleared that hurdle." She chuckled, leaning against him. They then began laughing at the same time as, nearby, Bakugo was leaning against the wall. A large shrub concealed his presence. With arms crossed, he shed a short smile. "About time, you idiot," he thought before leaving. The two managed to return in time to avoid suspicion by their classmates as Momo and Ida set everything up for the group photo. The class rep then invited the photographer over, surprising all with it being Mr. Takuda. In his head, he thought back to the call he received from Momo before the party. An exclusive chance to snap a photo of the students from Class 1A? How could I miss an opportunity like that? Using his quirk, whole-body lens, he made sure everyone was in their pose before he snapped multiples and printed them for each of the students. He had also received their permission to print their picture for the newspaper, due partially to the big success of his article of Izuku. For the photo, Achiko took off and stashed her ring away. They all made the same victory pose as All Might together with Izuku in the center, wearing his battlesuit. A huge surprise was, due to the camera flashes, portions of Hatsume's true self were in the photo, making her glad that she asked Yaoyorozu for spare clothes. "Whoa! No way! I never thought we'd see your actual face again, Hagakure." Jiro gasped. "Yeah, but it's definitely worth seeing again." Sato replied, Tokoyami agreeing. Hatsume looked towards Mineta, seeing him eyeing her face in his photo before she started frantically bonking his head with her invisible hands. As she shouted to stop staring at her, calling him a creep, others began to laugh. Izuku handed Kazuto his copy of the photo, showing that he was caught in it as well as Eri and the present teachers. The next day. When the next day came, Izuku had talked his friends into assisting him in the search for Kazuto's brother, the young boy having fully recovered. Before they separated, they were given his physical description by Kazuto. They were looking for a child about his height with the same white hair but with soft reddish-colored eyes, explaining they were nearly twins. As most of his friends covered the lower streets, Kazuto rode piggyback on Izuku as he hopped across rooftops with the likes of Bakugo, Shoto and Uraraka following. Tokoyami also took Jiro to the skies on the other side of town, carried by the wings of Dark Shadow, to spread out the search. As Izuku continued moving, memories of earlier that day came back, the heroes being contacted by Officer Tsukachi. I understand how important this is for you to reunite Kazuto and his brother, but I would like to request your eyes in another matter if you'll take it alongside. As you know, Dr. Garaki, All for One's lead scientist, had managed to escape from police custody during the reconstruction of Japan. He has been on the run since and, despite our best efforts, we have yet to locate the madman. It's not likely he has left the country because we've put tabs on all his activity during our manhunt. If you happen to find any clues or catch a sighting of the lunatic, please contact me immediately. Izuku's eyes narrowed. Dr. Garaki, the creator of the Nomu. He's capable of cloning quirks and mutating test subjects to fit his mad goals, like what he did with Tamura Shigaraki. He thought, don't tell me Kazuto's brother is in your hands, you madman, he thought. He received a ring in his ear from an earpiece. Izuku, Deku here. Is that you, Chargebolt? Any sightings? Kaminari, groans, nothing yet, Deku. Just checking back in for a reminder of the kid's profile. Bakugo groaned, using his earpiece to join the call. Kaminari flinched upon hearing his voice yelling back at him. Bakugo, you moron. The kid says he looks just like him. How hard is it to find a kid with white hair? Kaminari, yeah, sure. Whatever you say, dynamite. But you forget how many people live in this city. Momo, this is Kriati. I thought I located the target, but it turns out it was a different child. Ojiro, I'm having no luck either. I tried asking others if anyone knew about Kazuto and his brother beforehand. Izuku, thanks for that, Tailman. We'll keep up our search as well. Meanwhile, as the heroes continued the search above ground, in his hidden lair, Garaki looked on at the slumbering Aku in his chamber. His computer gave him the clearance to unleash the monster, its physicals and mentality stable. He pressed a button on a remote, the pod hissing before it began to open and the liquid inside pouring out while a sinister grin lined his face. Thus, attached to Aku also released him, causing him to drop to the ground. The doctor laughed eccentrically. It is time. Rise so we can begin our destruction of the heroes and their feeble society, he shouted, raising his hand. Aku's eyes flashed open, blood red in color with thin slits for pupils. With a monstrous snarl, he began rising up on his own. Small black flames, similar to Dabi's fire, flickered off him as he rattled his body and whipped around his long white locks. He had a well-built body, a mix between Shigaraki and All for One's bodies while having facial features similar to Shigaraki with pitch-black skin. His mouth were lined with razor-sharp teeth as he looked towards Garaki. They smiled at the sight of each other. At last, Midoriya will know true terror. His days are finished, the doctor muttered. Aku began moving before suddenly stopping, collapsing to his knees and surprising the doctor. Sounds of retching and violent coughing could be heard. What is wrong with you? He exclaimed. The monster continued coughing before, in an explosive let-out, he vomited out the fluids of inside his body as well as a small human figure. The body hitting the ground was a young boy with slobbered over white hair and raggedy clothing. Aku continued spatting out the rest as the doctor was flabbergasted. What are you saying? You just rejected the host body I built you upon. What do you mean, not enough? Garaki exclaimed, a look of fury on his face. Aku began slowly rising up, grumbling softly. Don't you know? You cannot function to your fullest capabilities without a host to feed off. That's what makes you so special to the other Nomu I've made. What's wrong? He continued. Aku's slits looked towards him and then the child. Not enough hate. Post body, worthless. Too weak. Garaki gawked, growling as his hand crushed the remote to his tank. So what? It was the best I could do with the resources I had. You had all the time necessary to become one with this quirkless child. Do what I say and merge back. It's the only way you can fulfill your purpose, the doctor screamed. Aku showed signs of rejection, swatting the boy's unconscious body away. Garaki snarled as veins bulged on his bald head. Listen to me, you moron. I am your master. Your creator, he screamed. I poured all my reserves into creating you so you would slaughter Midoriya, his friends and the other pro-heroes. You cannot do that if you're fighting incomplete. Now do as I say. Deku's snarling rose in intensity before he casted his gaze towards Garaki, the look of bloodlust leaving the doctor frozen from fear. From his perspective, he felt as if he was staring back at an enraged all-for-one as he trembled with mouth gaped open. In that case, you will suffice, Doctor. You want vengeance? Then let us do it together. The monster quickly lashed out at him, Garaki screaming in genuine fright as he was thrown to the ground, his glasses flung off of him. Deku pinned him down before unleashing a loud, ferocious roar. Nearby, Garaki's glasses laid with large cracks on each lens. Part 07. Aku, Origin. Izuku and Achiko's search for Kazuto's brother brought them to the sandy shores of Takoba Municipal Beach. Memories of his training with All Might came flowing back to Izuku as he stared on at its white sands and beautiful view of the ocean. To his surprise, near the sidewalk overlooking the shore, stood a large dark green statue of him. Seeing it made Achiko giggle. I still can't believe they made a statue of you, Deku. They even got your color right, she laughed. Izuku smiled. Well, when the news learned it was my training with All Might that the beach was cleaned, they wanted to erect a statue of me as a way of thanks. He said, if All Might didn't train me, this beach would most likely still be a garbage dump. Kazuto observed the conversation before he felt a sudden jolt come over him, his eyes widening momentarily. Help, me. Hey. Did you feel that? He asked. Izuku and Uraraka turned to him. Feel what? She asked. Do you see anything, Kazuto? Izuku asked. Kazuto shook his head. No. But I had the weirdest feeling just run down my spine, he said. He began scanning the sands before the same feeling came again with the similar voice. He quickly turned back to the heroes. I think my brother might be nearby. That has to be the only explanation, he shouted. Achiko gasped. Are you sure? Izuku asked, kneeling down to his level. The boy nodded. They turned their gaze back towards the beach before, out of the corner of his eye, Izuku noticed a strange lid laying amidst the grains. They rushed over as Izuku picked it up. This looks like a hatch door. But where'd it come from? He muttered, examining it to see the hinges had been torn off. Looking back, the three noticed a peculiar hole. Believing it to be the lead to his brother, Kazuto encouraged the two heroes to help him look. Below the sands. With Kazuto close by, the three descended down in a mechanical elevator that surfaced once Izuku approached. It took them deep below the sands of Takoba Municipal Beach and straight into the now abandoned lair of Dr. Garaki, where he and Aku were recently confined to. The sight of his tools, machines and other notes surprised the two heroes. W.O. Look at this place. How did something this big stay out of the radar of the police, let alone the other pro-heroes? Achiko exclaimed, her voice echoing. Izuku noticed a pile of torn paper by his feet, looking down to see it was the remnants of the newspapers he shredded out of hate. He saw a shred featuring his smiling face sticking out beneath his boot. No doubt about it, Uravity. This has to be one of Dr. Garaki's secret lairs. But it doesn't look like one of the facilities he used to breed Nomu, he muttered. Kazuto turned to him. A Nomu? What's a Nomu? He asked. They aren't a thing anymore, but Nomu were essentially the remains of deceased people that the man who owns this lab performed experiments on. He reanimated them into monstrous creatures that wielded multiple quirks at the same time and mutated their bodies in the process. He sent them to attack innocent people and to cripple the heroes to further his plans. Izuku explained. Achiko nodded, saying it was at the command of his former employer, the deceased All for One. Kazuto gasped. They were zombies? He exclaimed out of fear. But, like Deku said, they're no longer being made as the doctor doesn't have the means or funding backing him like he previously had. Achiko added. Just then, Kazuto heard a voice nearby groaning in agony. They all turned to see the unconscious boy from before, the one spat out by Aku. Brother, the boy screamed, rushing over to him. Izuku gasped before following close behind while Kazuto crouched down to prompt him up. Tetsuo! Tetsuo! Wake up! It's me! Kazuto! He shouted, shaking his body. He did not respond, however. Izuku looked over Tetsuo's body and noticed the fluid dripping off him. Achiko approached before looking disgusted, covering her nose because of the fluid's vile smell. Oh, that reeks. Don't tell me Dr. Garaki was trying to experiment on kids now, she asked. Kazuto put his head to his chest, hearing a heartbeat. He let out a heavy sigh. He's only asleep. Thank goodness, he muttered with teary eyes. Izuku smiled and patted the boy's head. I promised you we'd find him. Now that we have, you boys are going to be all right, he said, comforting him. But nearby, Izuku saw a trail of black drippings heading back towards the elevator they just used. He also noticed the main computer was still active and, beneath the table, was the doctor's broken glasses. Achiko then glimpsed at the opened capsule where Aku was previously. Deku? I got a bad feeling about this, she said. I think the doctor must have been working on something new recently. Izuku hurried over and began attempting to open the files left behind on the computer, eyes glued to the screen. He was able to find a recorded video file within a subfolder titled Project Superior Nomu. Bringing it up showed a recording of Dr. Garaki in the dimly lit laboratory, looking squarely at the camera with a serious expression in his eyes. I have recently found out that my master, All for One, has fallen, and our grand plan to have him merge with Shigaraki, becoming the Demon Lord of Japan, has also flopped. The heroes have, once again, won, much to my total disgust. However, there is one, in particular, that I will dedicate the rest of my life, if needed, to make sure he dies an agonizing and brutal death. And that is his killer, Deku, or should I say, Izuku Midoriya. Izuku gasped. If that boy thinks he can get away with ending the life of the man I hold immense respect for in the name of justice, he is sadly mistaken. So he and his classmates have graduated from UA High and are no longer students. He will die all the same. One for all. If you are hearing my voice from the other side, rest assured that your death will not go unanswered. For that, I have begun work on what I hope will be my crowning jewel among Nomu. But this one, he will not be like the rest. I plan to create an unstoppable demon, not restricted by the limitations of its body, with the sole purpose of killing Izuku Midoriya and the rest of the heroes. May this log of video evidence be proof that evil never rests. The video ended there before Izuku began another one, Achiko and Kazuto approaching from behind. The unconscious Tetsuo was being carried in Achiko's arms. The new video showed Garaki looking on at the beginnings of Aku forming in his pod before looking towards the camera. It has been about a year since I began this project, and things appear stable for the time being. The specimen has been quiet for a while now, only active when it senses the feeling of hate coming from other organisms. That will be what fuels its destructive rampage. Luckily for me, the remains of what I granted to that fool, Shigaraki, will be of vital use for the specimen's growth. Izuku forwarded the video a bit, skipping over more self-monologuing. A long time ago, I was fortunate enough for All for One to bless me with a sample of his primal DNA. From it, I extracted and fostered a seed of pure hate from it. While I do not know of its origins, I will assume it was a result of the Master's overwhelming hatred for All Might, the man responsible for seriously crippling him. After I learned of his demise, I began funneling similar seeds of hate I created from DNA samples of the League of Villain members into its construction. Along with what can only be described as the physical embodiment of evil, I am planning to introduce the specimen to other quirks I previously had planned for future Nomu. As if the quirks of Shigaraki and his cohorts weren't enough, I do this to assure Izuku Midoriya has no chance of winning. Izuku and Achiko gasped. The hatred extracted from the League of Villains? She muttered, eyes widened. She thought back to her battle with Himiko Toga as well as their previous encounters with the League's members, ending on when the misunderstood Toga gave her life so she could live and donated her blood. Izuku lightly growled, clenching his fists. Garaki, what were you thinking? Is that how you plan to remember Shigaraki and the others All for One used for his own purposes? he thought. Just then, there was a most recent video recording that he brought up. Though it was short, the contents had Izuku shielding Kazuto's eyes because of the levels of violence. All that was recorded was the screams of Dr. Garaki as Aku, now freed and having rejected Tetsuo, consumed the doctor entirely and fused his body into his own. Aku let out a deep growl before undergoing a freakish mutation, growing larger after absorbing Garaki. He then looked towards the camera and roared loudly, damaging the devices enough to cut out. The sight left both heroes utterly horrified. It killed him? Achiko whispered softly, covering her mouth. That must be what escaped from the hatch before. He must be loose in the city right now. Izuku thought, backing away slowly. He quickly tried to send a warning over his earpiece, but he only heard static. Guys, are you there? He shouted, drat. Dr. Garaki must have something jamming our comms. Uravity, take the kids and get them somewhere safe. I'll meet you in the city later. Before Achiko could say a word, he made a break for the leading above and, using boosters in his boots, wall jumped his way up. Achiko groaned. Don't do anything reckless, Izuku, she muttered. Kamino Ward, All Might statue. Izuku rushed out and towards the city, using the rising smoke in the distance as a beacon to find Aku. His earpiece began to ring as he leapt across buildings. Bakugo, about time you answered, you dumb butt. Izuku, dynamite. We found a secret lab under Takoba Beach belonging to Dr. Garaki. Something escaped from there and is most likely running rampant in the city. Bakugo, what? That diamond doctor is behind this. Either way, you're late reporting in. Izuku, I'm sorry. He had some kind of jamming device in place so I couldn't call from inside. I'm on my way over. But just as he hung up with Bakugo, his earpiece rang again. Ojiro, there's this big black monstrosity attacking civilians close to UA High. I'm here with Red Riot, Grape and Cellophane trying to contain him. Izuku, I just got word that Dynamite was fighting him. I'm seeing smoke rising from Kamino Ward. Ojiro, are you kidding me? Does this thing have some kind of duplication quirk then? Izuku, maybe. It's one of Dr. Garaki's mutants. Watch out. More and more calls kept coming in from his friends, all saying they were engaging Aku at different locals around the city. He also received word that other pro-heroes were hurrying to help. Izuku then made a call to Officer Tsukachi. Izuku, Officer Tsukachi. Do you copy? It's Deku. Tsukachi, I'm here, Midoriya. Are you calling about the black monster running rampant? Izuku, a little while ago, I was patrolling with Uravity and we found a secret laboratory that Dr. Garaki was using to make this thing. But we found video proof that it turned on and killed his creator before breaking out. Tsukachi, what? Garaki is dead. Izuku, as for his final creation, it's called Aku and was made using hatred fostered from the League of Villains and All for One. He also armed it with whatever cloned quirks he had made. All for the purpose of killing me. Tsukachi, most likely because you were the reason All for One perished. All right, I'll send anyone I can your way and make sure they're informed. What's your location? Izuku, nearing Kamino Ward. Dynamite is there too. He abruptly hung up as he stopped on a rooftop overlooking Ground Zero, the site of All Might's statue following his battle with All for One. In no time, he found Bakugo aiming his gauntlet at Aku, jumping down to his friend's side. Bakugo flashed a glance his way as the monster eyed him. Aku had grown to about the same size as All for One's adult self and had the muscles to match. His white hair grew even longer, the ends colored blood red. The monster was hunched over, walking on its knuckles like a gorilla. So, anything you'd like to report, Deku? He asked, armed and ready. It's a Nomu with about as many quirks as All for One, built for the purpose of killing dead. Izuku replied, he also killed Dr. Garaki after being awakened. Bakugo looked back shocked. What? The DMN freak killed the doc. He shouted. Realizing the new person before him was Deku, the doctor's sole focus, Aku grew a large grin across his face as black ooze leaked out the gaps between his sharp teeth. A look of insanity bore daggers towards the hero. However, Izuku heard another voice call out to him. "What the? Where'd you come from, kid?" the voice yelled. Izuku looked and saw Atsuhiro and Shuichi ready to go, the reptile man armed with a katana. "Kaken, why are they here?" he asked. Bakugo groaned before explaining he found them engaging with Aku before he came to intercept him. Their fighting caused the civilians to flee in no time. The heroes turned their gaze back to Aku as he began to laugh in a deep, menacing beast slowly adjusted its body as to stand upright, laugh becoming unhinged as his sadistic gaze focused solely on Izuku. "So, you're Deku," Aku said in a distorted voice, head to the side. "You didn't waste your time finding me, hero." Izuku's gaze narrowed, assuming battle stance as more black fluid secreted from Aku's gums. Part 08. Monstrous Rampage. Jaku Hospital. Achiko hurried Kazuto's weakened brother, Tetsuo, back to Jaku Hospital for a checkup and left him behind as well under the watch of the nurses on staff. Due to the rancid fluids soaked his body and the hero's explanation of where he was, the doctors isolated Tetsuo in his own room while tests were run. Kazuto watched from the window of his room with worry in his eyes. Achiko lightly rubbed the boy's head. "It'll be okay, I promise. The doctors want to make sure your brother hasn't been affected by Garaki's experiments. If you ask me, he'll wake up in no time," she said in an attempt to comfort him. Achiko turned to a nurse, asking if she'd watch him while she hurried back to Deku. "Of course. Please be careful, Uravity," the nurse said. Before taking off, Achiko told Kazuto to do what the nurses say and stay safe until everything resolved, adding that Izuku would want the same thing. The boy nodded quietly. "Okay," he said. With the goodbyes given, Achiko donned her headpiece before leaving from a window by using zero gravity to elevate herself. Now outside, she quickly caught notice of one of the many Aku going on a berserk rampage close by. This copy was being fought by Pinky, Mirko, and Froppy. Aku roared and came on the charge for Mirko, the hero countering by firing a swift kick to his jaw. She came on the attack with a barrage of strikes before driving him back with another kick. Froppy looked up and saw Achiko. "Uravity! Where's Deku?" she called. Achiko groaned, torn between helping her friends or joining Izuku. Aku launched his right arm at Froppy, the limbs stretching before catching her in his grasp. But the arm was splashed by Ashido's acid, quickly melting through and freeing Froppy. "He's most likely fighting the original," Achiko yelled. Ashido looked up in bafflement. "Excuse me? There's more than one of this freak show," she exclaimed. Suddenly, the girls saw Aku regrow its lost arm before letting out a blood-curdling roar. It didn't faze Mirko as she began stretching her limbs and cracking her knuckles. "Fake or not, I'm gonna enjoy beating this a-hole into the ground. I've been itching to get back in action for a while, and I'm not letting this pass me," she confidently proclaimed, Aku's eyes narrowing. "Tell Deku that, when we're done here, we'll join him. Make sure we get the coordinates first." Achiko nodded, wishing them luck before continuing on. At Ground Zero Kamino Ward. As the city was engulfed by the violent lashings of Aku's multiple copies, Izuku and Bakugo were still at Kamino Ward staring down his original body. The monster stared at Izuku with a look of sheer insanity in his eyes, black fluid seething from his mouth and a violent sense of blood-lust exerting from him. "Izuku Midoriya," he said, licking his lips. Izuku groaned in disgust. "You said that crazy doctor was the maniac behind this? Explain it so I can understand, Deku." Bakugo asked. "This is Aku, a new breed of Nomo. Created from the fostering hatred he's collected from the League of Villains, built solely to kill me and fulfill his revenge. He originally was attempting to use Kazuto's missing brother as a host for it before it turned on him. As for what quirks he has, he could have as many as All for One," he explained. Bakugo groaned while Atsuhiro and Shuichi gasped. "It what? When did that psychotic doctor get anything out of us?" Atsuhiro shouted. Shuichi's eyes narrowed while gritting his teeth. "You don't remember? The doc wanted samples of our DNA for backup reasons, probably in case he wanted to experiment on us too," he explained. "What I want to know is why this monstrosity dares to look like my deceased friend." He drew his katana and pointed straight at Aku, demanding answers. The monster turned to him with a wicked grin. You can thank the doctor for that. He originally wanted me to bear similarities to his precious master, but decided to keep this form. Maybe I have it so we could spat upon your leader for his failures. He cackled, enjoying every word he spoke. Shuichi snarled, gripping his sword tighter. Don't you dare talk down Shigaraki's feats like you knew the guy. I won't allow, he exclaimed. Aku's grin remained to further irk Shuichi. Deku said you killed your master after waking up, but I'm gonna take a shot and say you used him for your new host. Am I wrong? Bakugo asked, ready to go. Aku snickered before he began hawking up and spat out a worn-down skull from his mouth towards their feet. One look and Izuku believed the skull was that of Dr. Garaki, shocking everyone else. The hero's eyes narrowed. What did you do? Izuku asked, trying to keep his cool. Aku laughed. I may have needed the doctor's help, but we have become one far quicker than he expected. We fit each other perfectly. And now that I've consumed his life energy and feeble quirk, I can operate without him calling the shots. Aku stated, be thankful that I still have that around. The monster laughed proudly before Bakugo charged for him. So what? You're gonna be nothing but splatters on the walls by the end of this. You don't scare me but whole. Bakugo exclaimed, unleashing a powerful explosion in his face. The blast forced Aku backwards while Bakugo continued with the attacks, beating him further back with each and proudly laughing. What's the matter? Where'd your big talk go? Or was that all you had? He shouted, hitting him with a double explosion from both hands. Through the smoke, Aku lashed out and grabbed Bakugo with his giant hand. His grip covered up the hero's mouth as he rose into the air. You're not the one I want. Take a hike. Aku roared before flinging him away effortlessly at a building. He then turned to Izuku. But don't worry, when I'm done with this one, you'll get your turn, he proclaimed. But Shuichi quickly charged next, slashing his sword at the monster's side. The blade sliced through his black sludgy body, Aku yelling. A spinner! Don't get too close to him. Izuku exclaimed. Sorry, Dad. But this beast is gonna die by my hand, he exclaimed, attacking again, for my friend's sake. Aku roared with each slash at him, but he quickly recovered from each before turning to Shuichi with a snarl. He rose one hand, using a quirk to double its size, before it came crashing down on Shuichi. The reptile was left flat as a pancake in the concrete. Wait your turn, extras. Aku roared. Just then, when he was distracted, Izuku boosted towards him and drove a punch with his full might against his chest. It was substantial a hit and made Aku reel briefly. He then followed with a quick flurry of hits before kicking him back. You won't be hurting anyone else, uh-oh. You want me? Come get me, he exclaimed. Bakugo came rocketing in from behind and fired another blast at the monster's back. Like hell you're fighting alone, Deku, he exclaimed, launching himself overhead before kicking Aku's face. He landed at Izuku's side. Listen up, demon monster. You ain't getting your sludge hands on my friend, he shouted, crackles emitting from his palms. Izuku lightly gasped. Keikaken, he said. Aku growled, looking around as Shuichi got back up to continue the fight. He briefly crouched down before shooting multiple black tentacles from his midsection and slammed everyone but Izuku against a wall or the ground. Bakugo wound up glued against the base of All Might statue. He snarled again before charging at Izuku. Now the hero, he roared, enlarging his fingers into giant claws. Izuku boosted backwards in time to avoid the slash, but Aku smirked and quickly attacked with his other hand. But due to Izuku's reaction timing with One for All, he narrowly avoided it, but his hand had become a spiked mace and left a tear through the battlesuit on his side. Before Izuku had a chance to collect himself, Aku's mouth shut as flames leaked from his jaws. A flamethrower? He gasped. The beast opened his jaws ready to fire, but was suddenly stopped when Ida suddenly came barreling in and kneed him in the side with all his might. The monster's flamethrower was thrown in a different direction as he stumbled, snarling viciously at Ida. Ingenium! You made it! Izuku shouted. Ida turned to him. Midoriya, are you all right? Don't worry. Our classmates should be coming to join the fight soon, he proclaimed. Aku seemed surprised, growling in a deep tone. How? My doubles was to assure nobody interfered with my fun, he asked. Ida looked to him sternly. Too bad for you, monster, that Japan has other pro heroes that were ecstatic to take your fakes out. They've all but vanished because of our combined efforts. Ida exclaimed. Aku growled before roaring loudly, suddenly met with a powerful shockwave of sound. It was loud enough for Aku to cover his ears in agony. Kaminari and Jiro had successfully arrived and she used her sound whooper to cripple the beast. A marker stuck itself to him as Kaminari then began charging electricity in between his palms. Supercharged voltage. 2 million volt laser, he shouted while firing. The lightning homed in and overwhelmed Aku, howling in agony. Izuku turned back at his friends, both giving him a thumbs up. But the attack did not leave Aku paralyzed, only making him more furious. The two heroes gasped. No way! He withstood that? Kaminari asked. Aku roared and fired a massive laser from his jaws at the pair. Jiro gasped while Kaminari shoved her and himself out of the way, the laser punching clean through the nearby building. How many of you are gonna keep showing up? The beast shrieked. His eyes darted back to Izuku but was met by a cannon blast from afar. The attacker was Momo, having just materialized the weapon, as a sudden wave of ice crept its way and froze Aku's legs in place. Izuku looked to see Shoto appearing along with Sato and Koda. Aku snarled viciously as more of Izuku's friends began to arrive on the scene. In no time, just about everybody from Class 1A was surrounding him to support Izuku. Bakugo and the former villains were also set free when he built up enough sweat to blast them free from Aku's sludge. We already know you're after Midoriya, so we're not going to let you get your grimy hands anywhere near him. Get used to it. Shoto exclaimed, igniting his other half. Just then, Achiko arrived and landed perfectly by Izuku's side. Achiko? He asked, looking to her. Don't worry, Deku. I put word out to everyone else about Aku and the other pros arrived to help clear out the duplicates. It's just him and us now, she said. They both smiled and lightly fist bumped each other. He then caught quick glimpses of everyone around him before looking back at the enraged Aku. Get the hint, Aku? If you want to kill one of us, you have to get through us all first, he exclaimed, making a fist. We're Class 1A of UA High School. We've fought our fair share of villains before you. And you'll fail just like the rest of them. Aku growled before screaming loudly, his voice sending a massive shockwave around him. The ground shook momentarily as he suddenly sprouted large demonic wings and a whip-like tail from his backside. His eyes glared towards Izuku, venom dripping from his stare. If that's what it takes, so be it. I'll slaughter every last one of you, he exclaimed. Come at me, trash heroes. Part 09. The Fall of Deku. Jaku Hospital. People fled to the hospital from Kamino Ward, turned into a safe house for citizens to avoid walking in the crosshairs of Aku's rampage. The lower floors were soon full of people as, watching from the cafeteria on the first floor, Kazuto remained silent. He was sitting at one of the tables, wanting a change of scenery after watching his unconscious brother since Achiko left. In front of him was a can of soda as he glanced down at it. Mr. Deku. I hope you're okay, he muttered. Prompting his head up with his arm, Kazuto slowly closed his eyes. When he reopened his eyes, to his shock, he was floating in a blank white void with no signs of Jaku Hospital or any of the evacuated citizens in the vicinity. He looked around in a panic, questioning what was going on as he yelled and called out for others including his brother or the nurses watching over him. But he received no replies, leaving him with only his growing fears. He would not be alone for long, however, as he saw someone floating his way. It was a man with solid white hair and dressed in a gray t-shirt and long black pants. It was the lingering soul of the original wielder of One for All, Yoichi. Who are you? What's going on? Kazuto asked, shouting loudly so to be heard. Yoichi silently looked back at him, putting a hand on his shoulder when they were close to each other. A serious look was on his face as Kazuto gasped. There's not much time to talk. But the man who protected you, Izuku Midoriya, needs you, Kazuto. If you do not hurry, Midoriya will die, he muttered. Kazuto's eyes grew wide, fear overtaking him as he began to envision a bloodied Deku on the ground surrounded by his other classmates in a similar fashion with Aku's figure looming, satisfaction on his devilish face. Kazuto suddenly blinked and returned to the real world, still inside Jaka Hospital. Outside a nearby window, there was a large explosion followed by a pillar of smoke rising up. The television in the cafeteria was tuned to a news station covering the massive battle taking place. Yoichi's words continued echoing in his head, as did the image of Izuku's bloodied body. Though he wanted to remain at the hospital for sake of his brother, the boy acted off the warning he was given and managed to climb outside of the nearby window, landing on the grass just outside. But to his surprise, Eri had just arrived along with the other evacuees and instantly spotted him. "Kei Kazuto, what are you doing? Were you sneaking out?" she shouted. Kazuto lightly groaned before he remembered a previous talk they had, Eri explaining her quirk to him. The boy quickly took Eri's wrist. "Miss Eri, come with me," he shouted, looking up at her with fear in his eyes. "I don't know why, but I think Mr. Deku is going to die." Eri gasped with horror in her eyes. She asked. "Kamino Ward, Ground Zero." At the sight of Aku's destructive rampage, the students of Class 1A combined forces and quirks to put the mad Nomu down. But driven by sheer hate and a mad desire to kill Midoriya, the beast couldn't be stopped as he grabbed both Tailman and Shuichi, throwing them aside before coming under fire from Grape's multitude of sticky ball. Aku roared, emitting a shockwave that blasted away the ball before he seemingly teleported towards and slugged him into a ruined building. Pinky gasped, watching her classmate fly by. "Mineta!" she exclaimed. Aku soon saw her and roared, growing spikes out of his back before launching them as guided missiles towards her. Pinky acted quickly and fired a concentrate spray of her acid to detonate the attack before it reached her. But Aku took the cover of smoke and blasted her with a barrage of red lasers, the hero screaming in pain as they raced past her. An array of camera drones flew around the field, watching the battle unfolding and projecting the image to Toshinori and Dr. Takashi at UA High. They watched along with the other teachers and Nizu in the principal's office. "That monster is something Dr. Garaki created?" Takashi asked in horror. Toshinori groaned, watching Izuku closely as his friends fought. "Midoriya, be careful," he thought. The beast laughed before, out of the corner of his eye, noticed Red Riot and Sugarman double-teaming him and punched him in the face. "Let's do this, Sugarman," Kirishima shouted as Aku slid backwards amidst their barrage of punches. Aku growled while digging his claws in the ground. Amidst their attacks, his eyes flashed red and quickly paralyzed both of them in place before blasting them away with a massive gust. Another laser blast was fired from his mouth, aimed in their direction before being met halfway by Yuga using his quirk in retaliation. The struggle left him pinned and wide open for Ingenium to swoop in and kick him in the jaw. Aku was thrown off balance before he was wrapped by cellophane and glued down by Grape's ball again, wrestling to get free. "Okay, we got him," Zero yelled. "You're up, Shoto," Mineta called. Aku turned to see the hero's left side engulfed in fire. The intensity of Shoto's fire continued to build, becoming a wildfire. "Flashfire Fist," he exclaimed, blasting a concentrate attack. Still bound by the tape, Aku's eyes widened before he was completely engulfed by the inferno, the tape catching on fire and burning his flesh. He screamed loudly, madly attempting to rip the tape from him. Izuku and Bakugo watched from Shoto's side. "You got him, Shoto," Izuku shouted. "Burn him to ash, Itahat," Bakugo roared. Amidst the fire, Aku focused his gaze on Shoto before they flashed red and paralyzed him again with his quirk. This caused the fire to stop and gave him time to break free, roaring loudly. "Deed a minute," Shoto thought. The monster laughed maliciously, unleashing a fury of bullet shots at the others. While most hurried to get out of the way, he took the opening to charge at Izuku. He was stopped when Atsuhiro used his quirk to fling condensed rubble he collected towards Uravity. "Thank you," she shouted, touching the rubble chunks. As they began to float, she shot out wires from her gauntlets and latched onto them before hurtling them straight for him. "Eat this," she screamed. Aku roared and clawed straight through them before he was in range of Izuku, insanity burning in his gaze. But from nowhere, despite Bakugo hurrying to Izuku, a massive foot appeared and stomped down atop Aku. They looked up to see Lady towering over them, the likes of Mirko, Present Mike and Kamui Woods on her shoulder. "Mount Lady!" Izuku exclaimed. The hero grinned as she began stomping repeatedly on Aku. "So this is the bug that needed stomping. Don't worry. I'll turn him into pulp," she shouted, each stomp shaking the ground. But as she prepared another stomp, Aku quickly leapt from the crater she left and bared his fangs. She momentarily gasped before Aku bit her calf with all his strength, venom seeping from his teeth into the wounds. It was enough to cause Lady to flinch and fumble backwards, the other heroes leaping off her. She reduced her size to normal as Kamui quickly caught and lowered her with his branches. "Deed it. I can't feel my leg," she yelled, seething in pain while clutching her leg. Eyes still on her, Aku separated a horde of blobs from his body and shot them towards her. They each bared fanged mouths. But Kamui Woods caught them with his branches and quickly crushed them before Present Mike let loose an ear-shattering shriek in the monster's direction. Earphone Jack soon joined in, intensifying the sound as their attacks crossed. Uravity hurried to Lady and checked her wound. The teeth marks glowed a dark purple. "Does anyone know how to drain poison from a bite wound?" Achiko shouted. Momo quickly created a venom pump and threw it to her. She then began spawning metal rods from her arms and threw them to a flying Tsukuyomi. Dark Shadow grabbed them and, aiding Tokoyami, formed a circle around the Nomu as Kaminari began charging electricity. Aku looked around him in confusion. "No. Charge bolt!" Tokoyami yelled, finishing the circle. He nodded and unleashed a massive jolt of electricity. The rods acted as lightning rods and contained the blast, Aku shrieking loudly. "That's for trying to kill my girl, sludge face!" Kaminari yelled, increasing the voltage. Aku growled, brute forcing himself from the layered attack and roared, blowing them away by the shockwave. He bulked in size, growing larger than everyone else, before firing another flamethrower from his jaws to coat the battlefield in flames. The heroes moved to escape, but Aku suddenly started mutating again, spatting out miniature monsters that raced at the heroes and chomped their bodies. He then laughed and spawned a long tail, aiming to sweep them aside. But the tail was quickly caught by Mirko, using it to yank Aku her way and came at him with a surge of rapid kicks to his face. "Lunar Rush," she shouted, kicking Aku back a great distance. But the attacks didn't let up as he was suddenly hit by a large slab of concrete, smashing to pieces once it came in contact with his head. The attack came from a joint effort of Cementos and, to the team's surprise, Death Arms just arriving on the scene. "No way! Is that you, Death Arms?" Kimi asked. The hero grinned. "Heard you guys were in a bind, so I rushed to offer a little backup," he shouted. He lobbed the rest of the concrete, breaking further upon hitting Aku, before coming from behind and bear-hugged the Nomu in his massive arms. At the same time, Anima summoned a swarm of birds and sent them to attack Aku with sweeping attacks. Though they were barely hurting, it allowed other heroes to come on him and attack with their own moves. The pummeling only enraged Aku more, all the while glaring at Izuku. "Must kill me Midoriya," he thought, vision turning blood red. He fought and successfully broke free of Death Arms' grip, piercing him using rivet from his backside. "Death Arms!" Empty Lady and Kamui exclaimed. Aku let out an ear-piercing shriek as multiple limbs and other parts began forming and separating from his person. Each blob of black sludge that broke off him became a horde of new doubles. They all shrieked in unison. "More clones?" Mineta exclaimed. Aku immediately locked eyes with Izuku. "Enough. We settle this now, Midoriya," he roared. He commanded the others to keep his friends busy while he made a mad dash for Deku. But Shoto suddenly casted a wall of ice in front of Deku, Aku smashing head first into it. "Not happening," he yelled. The beast snarled, bulking himself up while transforming his right arm into a machine gun and opened fire at Shoto. He was driven away before the Nomu started smashing away at the ice in a blind fury. Azui and Achiko moved to help, but they were stopped and attacked by the doubles. Shuichi also came under fire but was able to avoid and slash through the fake, momentarily cutting it in half, before he came charging for Aku. The fake merged itself back together behind him. Shuichi! Get away! Izuku exclaimed. But Shuichi didn't stop and used his other quirks, scale mail and body bulk, to intensify his next attack. Armed with his sword, he swung straight for Aku's neck. This is for Shigaraki, demon, the lizard roared. But the monster avoided and knocked away his weapon before clutching Shuichi by the neck. Begone! He roared, suppressing his quirks with one of his own until Shuichi shrank back to normal. The lizard man gasped before blasted away by a close-range laser blast. Aku then put all his strength into one last punch, shattering through Shoto's ice. His red eyes flashed upon seeing Izuku, the hero groaning. You want me, Aku? But leave them alone, he exclaimed. Aku roared and prepared another attack. But his right hand was suddenly shot off by a lone bullet whizzing by, striking him at the wrist. Aku roared and backed off. He and Izuku followed its trail, and there was Lady Nagant, using airwalk and her rifle arm. Sorry for making you wait, Midoriya. I'm here to give back up, she said, preparing another shot. Hawks caught wind of what was going down and asked me to come support. Aku growled, roaring in anger towards her. Another one! Stay out of my way, he exclaimed while sprouting multiple branches and fired lasers her way. But airwalk was enough for Nagant to avoid. He leapt for Nagant, surprising her before she jumped aside and fired back, smirking as her bullet struck him in the chest. But it was short-lived as he had counterattacked with rivets piercing her flesh. She was then thrown away brutally, left to crash to the ground. Lady Nagant! Izuku yelled. Seeing no one in his way, Aku flashed a devilish grin and made a beeline for him. Izuku noticed and readied himself. No more running. Now die, the beast roared. Using his battlesuit strength, he was able to catch Aku's hands and held him back while his heels dug through the ground. In the background, Eri and Kazuto finally arrived but quickly hid when Izuku and Aku rushed past. Mr. Deku! Eri exclaimed. The two titans were locked in a struggle until Izuku managed to drive Aku aside and kicked his side. He skid backwards before charging for Izuku, the two now matching each other with a barrage of punches. Aku satanically laughed amidst it all. His friends were forced to look on as Aku's clones doubled themselves and had them mostly pinned along with the other pro-heroes. Damn it! Get off me! Bakugo exclaimed, held against the ground. The fake laughed and grabbed his head, slamming him down face first. Eri and Kazuto silently watched in horror, legs quaking in place. What is that thing? What's going on? Eri gasped, eyes quivering and tears forming. Kazuto remained fixated on Izuku. What can I do? No way can I help Deku. Did that phantom call me here just to watch? He thought. Suddenly, Deku slipped up and was punched in the gut by Aku, blood flying from his lips. Another bullet punch sent Izuku flying backwards, crashing into rubble. Midoriya! Ida exclaimed. All fell silent, Aku keeping his eyes fixated on the rubble pile. The hero managed to break out and came charging for Aku, ramming him with his side. He then used tools similar to his former quirks to tie up Aku and throw him into a building. The Nomu easily came back but was met by a surprise smokescreen, losing sight of Izuku. Good. Looks like he can't find me no dash, he thought before he was suddenly attacked by a barrage of light-speed laser blasts, shattering parts of his armor. How? Izuku thought. Aku laughed and charged for him, growing horns from his head and used them to attempt to impale him. Even though Izuku was able to avoid, one still pierced his side. He yelled in agony before being grabbed by the Nomu and basically beat him against the ground like a rag doll. He was then launched into the air before, met in the air by a powerful jump, slammed back down hard. Izuku! Achiko screamed, trying to break off and help. But she was cut off by Aku's double, eyeing her sadistically. The mere look at its face enraged Ochako. "Get away from him, you she screamed. Her yell was met by the double electrifying its fists and coming at her with a brutal storm of attacks. Meanwhile, Izuku was somehow still fighting despite the beatings he was dealt. "No, I can't lose," he thought while attempting to match Aku in another torrent of attacks. Each time their fists collided, he could feel his strength fading. This was due to the Nomu emitting a quirk that siphoned his power. If he's let loose on Japan, everybody will die. I can't let that happen, he thought. Suddenly he saw Aku preparing another attack as his cheeks began to swell up. Feeling it was a laser or flamethrower, Izuku attempted to move aside. But rivets were suddenly shot out instead, the previous attack used as a bluff to scare him. They stabbed into him, the hero coughing up blood before being dragged back to him. Aku then grabbed him by the wrists and ankles, lifting him above high before driving him down on his knee. The impact nearly broke Izuku's spine, the hero screaming upon impact. The others could not stomach what they were watching, their friend reduced to a punching bag. He then laughed and violently threw Izuku away into a building. The impact was powerful enough to cause shockwaves that brought it crashing down on him. "Midoriya!" everyone screamed. From the sides, Eri and Kazuto continued watching in utter horror, neither able to word their thoughts. The dust slowly settled as Aku looked on, a demonic grin stretched across his face. "She's gonna get back up, right?" Bujiro asked. "But he's quirkless now." And his armor looked seriously thrashed. Hagakure added. Momo looked on under the heel of another Aku clone. "We poured all our time and money into helping Midoriya. But Garaki's monster broke it like it was nothing," she muttered. To everyone's surprise, Izuku fought and was able to break free of the bricks and rubble atop him, shoving it off as he emerged. Barely much of his battlesuit's top half was left, exposing his human body and flesh. His muscles ached, his breathing was heavy and blood leaked down his arms, face and the various wounds. He tried to retain his battle stance, but even he could feel his nerves and sight failing him, struggling to keep his balance. One look at the seriously wounded hero made Aku laugh maniacally. "That is all you can do? Was it truly this easy to reduce you to a bloody mess?" "Pathetic," the Nomu screamed, pointing a finger at him. "I hardly used any of my more violent quirks even. You're just a joke. You were never in my league." "Nothing." Izuku groaned, fighting to keep his vision. "No, not here. Not now. My friends still need me. I won't fall. Not when everyone needs me." Izuku took a deep breath before yelling back at Aku. "Shut up," he exclaimed. "I'm not done yet. As long as I can stand and keep smiling, I won't lose." Aku chuckled. "Oh, that's good. And here I thought that you'd need a little motivation to keep going," the Nomu replied. Izuku raised a brow, confused by what he heard. Just then, the sound of Ochiko's pain-filled scream broke the hero out of his fog as well as shocking the others. "You Rarika?" Izuku asked. Those close to her saw she was swallowed up by the double before she suddenly appeared in the clutches of Aku, her head writhing in agony as he held her up. The mere sight of her battered body left Izuku mortally horrified. Aku then laughed and liked her face, relishing the blood he sampled off her. She struggled to squint an eye open, looking back at Izuku with what little strength she had. Her hero costume was not only covered in bruises, trails of blood and tears, but she herself looked like she went through literal hell. "Deku, help me." The hero could not believe his eyes as he looked on horrified and his confidence completely crushed, tears forming in his eyes. Soon he felt a switch flip inside him, a feeling he hadn't felt overcome him since he dropped everything to free Bakugo from the sludge villain. A sense of blind rage began to swell up, growing quicker the longer he stared on at Aku's sick enjoyment and Uraraka's suffering. Unbeknown to him, black crackles of electricity surged off him as he growled, almost as if One for All was reacting to his feelings of absolute hate. His fists began to clench as Aku sneered, using the sight of Ochiko's body to bait him closer. "You!" Izuku snarled, growling on a near-feral level. Everything else around him soon phased itself out, his previously dealt wounds, other senses, past emotions and even the yelling voices of his friends to stop. For a brief moment, Banjo's words about keeping tabs on his heart phased through his head but were easily ignored. He moved at almost inhuman speeds at Aku, surprising him briefly. In a flash, the hero was within striking range of Aku's chest. "Let her go!" Izuku screamed, punching the Nomu with all his might. But despite striking him dead center in the chest, it wasn't enough to even make Aku flinch. In fact, it seemed to reignite the pain he was feeling before as he fumbled backwards afterwards. The reality Aku didn't even flinch left him utterly destroyed, his berserker state gone and his cowardly face from middle school grew. Aku laughed and threw away Achiko's body. As he did, his hand began to mutate again, transforming into a razor-toothed blaster and slammed it into his chest while charging the blast. Absolute glee shined in the monster's eyes while Izuku's were fixated on the attack. "Farewell, loser hero." Aku laughed. His friends and fellow heroes watched in horror, all screaming Izuku's name, as a blood-red blast pierced effortlessly through him. The blast completely obliterated his internal organs, the light in his eyes snuffed out, before his limp body flew back and crashed into the rubble. Watching things transpire from the cameras hit Toshinori like a ton of bricks, mouth agape and eyes wide as possible. Nizu and the other teachers were as mortified. "No," he muttered, his body shaking, "Midoriya.nu." His sudden scream shocked everyone as he dropped to his knees. Seeing Izuku's lifeless body quickly ignited a vicious and sadistic laugh from Aku. As he laughed, Achiko struggled to sit herself up, fortunate enough to not see what happened. But that did not prepare her for the traumatizing scene laid before her. Just like Izuku, her mind immediately went blank while a look of total despair plagued her. She was crying waves of tears, her eyebrows twitching and lips quivering. Her tears dripped down landing on her clenched hands, as her memories of him began flooding her mind at mad pace. In her mind, the memories began to burn away from the edges like photos thrown in a flame. The very last words she heard echoing were what he said to her at the class reunion. "Achiko Uraraka, I love you." Reality completely demolished Achiko as she screamed as loud as her vocal cords could. Like Izuku, she effortlessly was able to move again despite the wounds inflicted on her. The look in her eyes gave the impression that her entire world came crashing down. "Izuku!" she screamed, tears flying off her as she ran towards him. The Nomu did nothing, letting the wounded hero pass, before he slowly looked back to the rest of Class 1A. Now that he finished with Izuku, the others were now nothing more than lambs for the slaughter. His overwhelming sense of lust washed over the others, leaving them frozen in place. It was now on another level from Stain or even All for One's aura, even scaring the likes of Shoto and Bakugo. "Now then, who wants to go next?" he sadistically asked. Achiko's injuries caught up as she soon collapsed at Izuku's side, struggling briefly to be closer with tear-filled eyes. She raised his body up and begun to violently shake, hoping some sign of life answered her. "Izuku? Izuku! Wake up! Please! Please! Wake up, Izuku!" she screamed, all other emotions overtaken by sheer desperation. Her breathing was uneven and panicked, praying for some reaction from him. Her friends looked on mortified, the likes of Momo and Mina looking away to remorse. "Achiko!" Sui muttered, tears in her eyes. From afar, Eri could not take any more and hurried to Izuku's body, leaving Kazuto by himself and overcome by fear. He hadn't even noticed she ran off, focused on Izuku's dead body like Achiko. "No, this can't be real, right?" Kazuto thought, "He can't be dead. He can't be." Suddenly realizing Eri's presence, Achiko gasped while she went to work and activated Rewind in a mad attempt to revive Izuku, planting her hands on his chest. "Eri?" Achiko asked. Despite her efforts, Eri saw a sickening black aura eating away at the edges of his wound, stopping her quirk from spreading. But Eri refused to give up and began putting all her energy into her output, her horns shining brightly while fighting back her own tears. "Mr. Deku, hang on. I won't let you die. I won't." she exclaimed. Hearing her voice, Aku stopped in place and looked over his shoulder at her. His sadistic grin twitched before he outright turned back to face them. Tell me, just what are you doing, little maggot? He asked, scaring Eri and the others. Bakugo growled and tried to move but was shut down by Aku's double. No. Stay away from her. Ashido exclaimed, attempting to attack but stopped. Don't even think about it. Shinso joined. Mineta fought to break loose but to no avail. Don't you dare touch Eri. Do you hear me? Yuga added. But none of their voices seemed to reach Aku, solely fixated on Eri. The only thing that did was the sudden flash of a brilliant light from nearby. He turned to look and gasped along with the other heroes, the light emitting from Kazuto's body. Despite the tears in his eyes, Kazuto's eyes were filled with absolute rage at the death of his hero. I can't accept this, he muttered, anger rising. The boy looked ready to fight, his muscles tensing up as he grit his teeth and began snarling. While all this was happening, glowing markings weaved their way around his body as white lightning crackled, the signs all pointing to a reawakening of One for All. Aku gasped at the changes happening before him. Kazuto's shaggy white hair began standing on ends, a blonde tint radiating from each individual strand. What is that? The Nomu muttered. The boy glared angrily at Aku before letting out an echoing scream that caused a massive tremor around him. Why you guys seeing this? Zero asked. Is that Kazuto? Mineta added. No one could believe their eyes, including the likes of Achiko witnessing while Eri had returned to trying to help Izuku. As all this transpired before him, the situation left Aku utterly flabbergasted. He was rendered speechless while the boy stared straight at him, eyes brilliantly shining blue and tears welled in his eyes. You're not getting away with this. I won't, he screamed intensely. Without a sound, the boy charged towards him at light speed before meeting Aku head-on with a powerful headbutt to the monster's gut. The blow was unlike anything he felt before, easily on par with 100% smash from All Might, the impact sending his body rocketing backwards and crashing into the base of a building. The rest of Class 1A was left completely shocked, staring on at the enraged child. What was that? Aku groaned, rising from the rubble. As all this was going on, Izuku suddenly awoke in the same void that he last visited the former wielders of One for All in. But he materialized in it as his child self, looking down silently at his body with black smoke covering his mouth and body. He looked around, not able to comprehend where he was until he heard a voice. So, this is how the hero known as Deku chooses to let his life end? How lame. Izuku turned quickly and gasped, seeing the child-sized figure of Shigaraki looking back at him. But unlike before, he appeared as he did when he was Tenko Shimura, not yet corrupted by All for One. Part 10. Izuku Midoriya, Rebirth. As the radiant glow of One for All shimmered from Kazuto's child body, the other heroes and Aku doubles were left dead silent as they saw him effortlessly send Aku's real body flying with one attack. The most shocked by this was Bakugo. No way. Bakugo muttered. Some of Class 1A and the other pro heroes looked on with their mouths hung open, even the likes of Toshinori watching from the drones. What the heck is the kid doing here? Shinso asked, laying amidst the rubble. Shoto fought to rise up, unable to take his eyes off Kazuto. That light, isn't that One for All? Shoto asked. Just then he lightly gasped, seeing the same enraged, almost ferocious expression Izuku gave him during the sports festival finals. He could even sense the same overwhelming emotions radiating. Why, that has to be. But why does Kazuto have it? Ashido added. Don't you dolts remember? Deku. Let the doctors perform a blood transfusion. Bakugo retorted, sitting upright. The demon idiot gave his blood to save the kid from dying. That must have been like All Might giving the quirk to him. Now that he's got it. From afar, Aku remained perplexed and baffled while still reeling from the injury sustained from Kazuto's attack. As his eyes twitched, he began to snarl. What in the world was that? He thought. That was the most damage I've felt in this entire battle, and the doctor wanted me to kill Deku. He must have been a senile fool. Just then he gasped. Wait, that cannot be the case, unless what Garaki wanted me to destroy was this amazing power, he thought. Yes. That's much easier to comprehend. In that case, he snarled, flashing his red claws as a black aura flared around him on par with Kazuto's light. Watching from the sidelines, Achiko couldn't help but think back to when Izuku used One for All to save her during the entrance exams to UA. In her mind, Kazuto radiated an aura similar to him. She glanced at his deceased body while Eri poured her all into Rewind, trying to revive him. Deku? Did you know this would happen? She thought. In her mind, she began thinking back to how determined Izuku was to save the child from his near-death experience, his feelings reflected in his facial expression. This moment, right before the procedure, was the rite of passage, for One for All in a similar way to All Might, allowing him to inherit it. Suddenly, Aku flashed his claws. I don't know who you are or where you came from, child, but for you to surprise attack me like that, you die, he roared. Despite closing the distance quickly, his attack missed as the boy avoided and countered with a punch to his gut. The impact made Aku reel in agony again, eyes bulging from his head. Aku fumbled backwards slightly before glaring at Kazuto, their looks of rage mirroring off each other. The Nomu roared and ready to counterattack before Kazuto quickly uppercut him in the jaw. I won't forgive you. You think killing others is a game. Kazuto exclaimed, suddenly attacking again at high speeds. Let's see how you like it when I reduce you to a puddle. In the other world. As the fight continued in the real world, young Midoriya was still floating in limbo while being greeted by the child-sized Tenko Shimura. He wanted to speak but couldn't due to the black haze covering his mouth. Is this really how you want to end things, Midoriya? After all the pain and misery I put you through, after how many people close to you I wounded, after our intense battle shook the foundation of Japan, you allow yourself to be killed by one of the doctor's monsters? With enough clawing away at the haze, Izuku was able to regain control of his voice and spoke back to Tenko's lingering ghost. Oh, of course I don't. I gave everything I could to save you from succumbing to All for One's control. But I could hardly damage Aku with the way I am now, he replied, eyes full of determination. But Tenko huffed. I think what you really mean is, without One for All at your side, you easily accepted death, despite having changed the way people look at those with and without quirks. You're pitiful. That was then, Tenko. The embers of One for All are gone. You think I could have beaten Aku the way I am now? How could I face my friends again, if I let them do most of the work? He exclaimed, tears in his eyes. Would you have been okay if you let your allies in the league do the fighting for you while you reaped the rewards? Tenko turned away. Isn't that how most folks you call villains think? Those who want to get what they want without putting in the effort will easily stoop to that level. But I thought that you, the #1 hero of Japan, would continue to do incredible things despite having destroyed your own quirk. But I guess in actuality, you were displeased with the fact you were reduced to using support course tech instead of a quirk to wield like your friends. Admit it. You wish you could have kept One for All instead of throwing it away. Izuku gasped, unable to reply back to Tenko. He thought back to his time as a UA teacher before receiving the suit from All Might, the sense of loneliness that built up inside of him and how he gladly resigned to his role despite wanting to do more by their side. He then thought to the utter feeling of despair he felt when he couldn't harm Aku with his suit destroyed. Maybe you're right. Deep down, I wished I could have continued supporting my friends and helping others as a pro. But I simply accepted that what I did was more than enough for an entire lifetime. I won't lie that, when I used my battle suit, it brought back memories of my time with One for All. Despite the good I was doing, it somehow felt hollow, he said. Tenko lightly chuckled, turning back towards him now as when he first met Shigaraki, albeit out of costume. At the same time, he unknowingly grew to his physical form from when he applied for UA with Bakugo. So, you actually admitted it. And here I thought you were gonna simply smile and shrug it off despite it eating away at you. That's the Midoriya I remember. Though he was now in his Shigaraki self, Tenko continued speaking in his voice but with the tone of Shigaraki's. Izuku looked down at his hand, clenching it into a fist. But there's nothing I can do now. I want to keep fighting. But how can I when my life was taken from me, he asked. Tenko simply shrugged. Dunno. Why don't you look at what happened to your friend, Bakugo? He was right where you are now, on the precipice of death's door while the other pro-heroes worked tirelessly to repair and kick-start his heart. Assuming you don't know what's happened since then, that girl, Eri, is pouring all her strength into her quirk at this very moment to revive you while the boy you saved is now that rabid Nomu's next opponent. Izuku gasped, picturing what was transpiring in the real world as his body laid in a bloodied mess. Kazuto's here. And so is Eri. But how? He asked. Just then, Yoichi's ghostly figure manifested by Tenko's side. It was me, Izuku. I used all the strength I could muster to guide him to your side. You may not know, but the gears have been put in motion for One for All to evolve in a way no one could ever have expected. For now, however, you must hurry back to your friend's side and put down Dr. Garaki's hatred along with Aku. Both specters took one of his hands before helping him towards a glowing light in the distance, the door back to his real body. Izuku said nothing more but willingly went along with them, knowing his questions would have to wait. But as the three of them rise towards the light, multiple black tentacles suddenly shot up from the void below them as the echoing, rage-filled screams of Dr. Garaki surged from below. He looked back to see Dr. Garaki's head, half fused with the damaged remains of All for One's featureless face, emerging from the shadows. Razor-sharp teeth gleamed from its lips as it screamed at him. Midoriya must die. What in the? Izuku gasped. Tenko groaned, passing Izuku off to Yoichi before standing in between them and the ravenous ghost of Garaki. The tentacles homed in on Midoriya before they were effortlessly shattered and deflected by Tenko attacking back. That is a seed of Dr. Garaki's hatred, Midoriya. Unless you are able to fight its will and return to your physical body, it will keep eating away at your wounds and prevent Eri from helping you. But what about Tenko? I can't just leave him behind like this. Izuku asked. Suddenly, another tentacle lashed out and slipped past Tenko to grab Midoriya's leg. Once wrapped around his ankle, it began pulling him back as others latched on soon after. Tenko quickly applied decay on each tentacle, hoping to free Midoriya. But each felt like an insignificant difference as more lashed out to replace what had been erased. It, Doctor. Even in the afterlife, you have to be such a pain. At least now I get to make you suffer for your contributions in ruining my life. Garaki's spirit let out a satanic roar as it formed more tentacles to attack Tenko, wincing whenever one was evaporated. But enough soon latched onto Midoriya's body that Yoichi's strength wasn't enough to continue guiding him. Izuku lost his grip while being dragged back towards Garaki's mouth, still trying to struggle free of his own accord. He looked back as the ghastly spirit grew closer and closer. Dai, let me go. You can't keep me here. My friends are waiting for me. Izuku yelled, still struggling against the tentacles. But just as he grew close enough to be thrown into its mouth, Tenko and Yoichi looking on in shock, a shining ball of light appeared before approaching Izuku at light speed. As he looked back, a familiar heroic voice rang out as the light cleaved through the tentacles at once with a lone punch. Garaki's ghost reeled in agony while Izuku was sent flying. Detroit Smash. As the tentacles evaporated around him, Izuku looked through the smoke to see his childhood hero, All Might, be lining for him with his radiant smile beaming on his face. Appearing in his muscle form, he caught Midoriya as he quickly grew into his UA student attire. All Might? Izuku asked, looking totally baffled. So this is where you've been, young Midoriya. Don't worry. You're safe now. But, you should know why by now. Because I am here. Izuku's face lit up as he shed tears of joy, seeing his hero in his prime once again. But just as soon as they reunited, All Might launched Izuku back to Yoichi in time to counter another of Garaki's tentacles. More eventually rose to attack Midoriya, but they were quickly put down by the sudden appearance of the former wielders of One for All, each yelling one of All Might's attack names. Izuku saw the likes of Nana Shimura, Banjo, Hikage, Bruce and Kudo whizzing by. Each of them flashed a confident smile to Midoriya after each attack, telling him to keep going. Everyone. Izuku shouted before briefly pausing, "Thank you." Garaki's ghost screamed loudly as he fired a barrage of sharp black spears aimed straight for him. But just as they were closing in, a glowing figure quickly raced past him at blistering speeds and smashed them into pieces with just one attack. Texas Bullet. The impact shattered them all and sent the shards crashing back at Garaki. Due to how fast the figure moved, Izuku couldn't tell who it was until he heard it speak. The light around the new person dissipated to reveal, to Midoriya's surprise, an aged-up Kazuto dressed in his own hero costume. A long flowing red cape flapped in the wind as his main attire was designed similarly to his original costume but a solid white coloring with splashes of colors reminiscent of the United States flag and a visor covering his eyes. Like he was currently, the tips of his white hair glowed a bright gold color as the aura of One for All crackled around him. Is that Kazuto?" Izuku asked before being caught by Yoichi. He lightly nodded. "Just as All Might saw greatness in you, what you're seeing is what the future holds for Kazuto, your successor, the 10th. Izuku was left speechless, amazed but also deeply touched to see the boy he recently saved maturing into a hero of his own. Teenage Kazuto looked back briefly and smiled at him similar to All Might, briefly waving before charging ahead with the other One for All wielders and Tenko to hold back Garaki's hatred. From afar, Izuku could briefly make up Tenko one last time but now aged into the Shigaraki he faced during the finale of the war. Suddenly, a light emitted from his hand before being thrown at Midoriya and passed through into his body. He and Yoichi continued closer to the light as the shadows below gradually shrank with distance. As he was nearing the exit, Yoichi used his own strength to launch Izuku the rest of the way. He looked back, now aged to his current-day self as Yoichi smiled back. But this time, the radical surge of One for All shined brightly off him, the original wielder. Izuku Midoriya, though you have completed the original purpose of One for All, know that your story is far from complete. What now beats inside you, waiting to be unlocked, is an all-new form of One for All built with your own hands. While I do not know what awaits you in the future, I am confident that you, as well as your friends, will continue lending your hand to those in need. You are now leading the path to a new evolution and society for quirks, one that my brother and I never got to experience. Never forget that one man cannot change the future alone." Izuku turned his view skyward as he saw his friends and loved ones calling his name while extending a hand towards him. He reached back with a smiling face, disappearing from sight after grabbing onto Achiko's hand. Now gone, Yoichi turned back to Garaki's raging hatred and the other wielders of One for All holding him back. He concentrated his power into his left hand, his eyes briefly flashing as a result. "Now it is my turn to go, plus ultra." The real world. Returning to Kamino Ward, Kazuto was still in a heated fight with Aku as his horde of duplicates pinned down the others. Both showed signs of exhaustion and Kazuto had been enduring the Noma's attacks while his emotions were in overdrive. Achiko and Eri, having watched the battle unfold, did not realize that the darkness eating away at Midoriya's wound had evaporated and Rewind began to reform his heart and fill in the hole caused by Aku's attack. As it happened, the radiant light of One for All began to make itself present on him. Izuku's eyes flashed open as a result, the girls looking back at the same time. Just the sight of him looking back caused them both to gasp and, overwhelmed with relief and happiness, began tearing up. "Achiko, Eri. I'm sorry to make you worry," he muttered. Their tears dripped down their faces, Achiko forcing a smile as Eri quickly hugged Izuku while bawling, her horn now incredibly smaller than it was before. Hearing the commotion caused the fighting to abruptly halt and all eyes turned to him, including the likes of Aku. "And Midoriya?" Ida asked, completely baffled. Emi Lady and Kamui simultaneously gasped, Mirko rendered speechless as well. "No way. Are my eyes playing tricks on me, or?" Kirishima stuttered. Despite not knowing what was happening either, Bakugo and Shoto both smiled at the sight of Izuku rising to his feet once again, aided by Achiko. "About time, Diamond nerd," Bakugo said softly. He firmly stood his ground as, appearing baffled more than the others, Aku looked on in total shock and disbelief. He just witnessed the man he killed be resurrected and back on his feet. His bubbling sense of hate began to build up, evident by his small twitches. No. This can't be right. I blasted a hole right through you, Midoriya. You should be dead, you little sheet, the Nomu exclaimed. Just then his eyes shifted to Eri, realizing his fight with Kazuto caused him to completely forget her. Baring his sharp teeth, the monster snarled in a bloodthirsty tone. It was you, wasn't it? He roared, scaring Eri. As he readied to attack her, a sudden outburst of power emitting from Izuku froze him in place. He felt unable to move or continue his attack because of its overwhelming presence, feeling as if he was being pushed back. He then noticed the crackling light surrounding him. At the same time, the aura radiating from Kazuto began to fade away once he saw his hero risen from the grave. His sense of blind rage was fading along with it, tears now building. "Did the boy muttered. Aku snarled as Izuku clenched his fist and turned his gaze towards the Nomu. A new fire burning in his eyes and an overwhelming surge of raw power formed a multicolored light that shined off him. He pointed his fist at Aku, briefly startling him. Your spree of destruction ends here. It's time you felt what it's like to feel helpless, before someone more powerful than you. Now get ready, he exclaimed, assuming his fighting stance. Finale, Heart of it. Despite being at death's door, Izuku rejoined the battle with a renewed sense of determination and courage. Now with One for All's flame reawakened inside him, he stared down Aku. The Nomu snarled and growled. His horde of copies also expressed his feelings, all glaring at Izuku. Glimpsing at the radiance from him, the hero was silent. The light radiating off him was on par with the levels on display when he fought All for One, as was the overwhelming power coming from him. I never thought I'd feel this way again, Izuku muttered, looking at both his hands. He soon heard the cheers of his friends, lightly surprising him. Go get him, Midoriya, Shiro proclaimed, added cheers from Kaminari and Jiro. You've got this, Tokoyami replied. Ashido and Hagakure screamed excitedly while Sato, Mineta and even Shinso sighed with relief. Achiko stood proudly behind him, tears still dripping down her face but with a smile instead. Deku, she sniffled, wiping away her tears. Still boiling with anger, Aku suddenly began to laugh, regaining Izuku's attention. So, you managed to claw your way back from death. How did I suppose I underestimated you, hero? But so what? If I did it once, I can do it again all too easily, he muttered, a sadistic smile on his face. Izuku's eyes narrowed, exerting a surge of power that made the Nomu groan. You don't get it. You won't be getting that second chance. Izuku replied, you've already caused enough destruction to a country that is still in its infancy of change. The fact you failed to kill me the first time should be proof enough that you are out of your league. Aku lightly growled before regaining his feeling of dominance. His copies snickered while gathering around him. Oh really? And what makes you think you can stop me? The original asked. Do you really think you can stop me and my armada of quirks from leveling the entire country? Izuku began charging his power, letting One for All flow across his entire body. The ground began to shake, pebbles and rubble quivering in its wake. Aku's eyes narrowed at the sight, his friends looking on with renewed fire. I know I can. And it doesn't take a genius to understand why. As my master once said, it's because I am here. Izuku exclaimed, letting his quirk flare as he called out All Might's famous words. The Nomu only grinned before, with a mere glance, sent his doubles to attack. They all moved at the same incredible speed as him, closing the distance quickly. But Izuku remained calm before suddenly lashing out with a bullet-speed punch, completely obliterating the head of One upon contact. Aku and the remaining doubles watched in utter horror as the decapitated One suddenly splattered into black sludge. The other heroes looked on in shock. With a single punch? Shoji thought. And Midoriya. Kamui Woods shouted. Just then, before they could react in time, Izuku followed with another titanic punch to another of the clones. This time, he aimed for its stomach, his fist shooting clean through its sludgy body. It writhed in agony before detonating as well, the others retreating as a result. Aku himself was left flabbergasted, unable to comprehend what happened. Impossible, Aku thought. Izuku slowly glanced towards the remaining clones before, reassuring themselves due to their numbers, they came on the onslaught again. But it only took a sudden outburst of energy to dispel them, evident by a lone yell, sending each of the doubles flying backwards. Yes, Shoto remarked. Bakugo grinned confidently, Eri approaching his side to offer healing. That's the Deku I remember. Guess Takashi's research was worth it after all, he thought. Watching from the observation drones nearby, Takashi and the rest were amazed at Izuku's strength. Some were even applauding and cheering his name. It looks as if your hypothesis about how to reawaken one for all was impeccable. I know Midoriya would be thanking you right now. Wouldn't you agree, Dr. Takashi? Nizu asked, now perched on his shoulder. The doctor shook his head, humbly surprising the principal. No. In all my years of studying the evolution of quirks, I can't take credit for what we're witnessing now. I believe, what truly revived the fire of One for All, is something I'll never understand. It was all his efforts alone, he said with confidence. Meanwhile, Tashinori watched in silence but with a smile on his face. Young Midoriya, look at you, he thought, you far surpassed this old man, even rekindling the amazing power of One for All. There truly is nothing left for me to teach you. I'm so proud of you, my protégé. Returning to the battle, Izuku exchanged brief glances at each of Aku's remaining doubles before suddenly vanishing in a flash. Aku looked shocked before he caught a glimpse of green light rush past, turning back to see another suddenly cleaved in half by a swift kick. Not a hint of fear was in Izuku's eyes, showing no remorse for the creature's destruction. He's so fast. Hagakure gasped. Even Ida could not believe what he was witnessing, helping the wounded Kamui Woods up. Midoriya, you're incredible, he thought before smiling to himself. With only one attack each and his movements clocking in at near light speed, Midoriya obliterated all of Aku's doubles, leaving them to destruct afterwards. He then turned back to the original before suddenly attacking, delivering a titanic punch to his gut. The impact was an even greater pain than when Kazuto struck, the Nomu completely reeling with mouth gaped open and eyes wide as possible. Izuku withdrew his fist just as fast, letting Aku stumble backwards while clutching his stomach. The Nomu suddenly keeled over to vomit. From the sidelines, Mirko grinned while she and Milady received healing from Eri. Looks like all you did was wake up a slumbering monster yourself, Nomu, she said with confidence. As Achiko observed Eri's movements, the young girl went around and gave each of Class 1A and the other heroes healing using Rewind. She only expended enough to allow them to move comfortably before moving to the next. Coughing the last of his upchuck, Aku looked back up at Midoriya with blind rage in his eyes and a demonic growl. As he knelt in front of him, all he could see was a look of complete confidence and merciless strength in his eyes. No. This isn't right. I had this pathetic hero dead. He did not have this power before. Was he messing with me? Am I joke to him? He thought, his thoughts clouded by the same hatred as Dr. Garaki. Izuku's calm glare only made his anger burn more. Out of rage, he bulked himself up and enlarged his left hand. He then swung with all his might, but it was stopped by Izuku with one hand. Just give up, Izuku said. Aku growled loudly before he saw a strange light beginning to eradicate his enlarged fist, stemming from the hero's touch. It worked like Shigaraki's decay, slowly chipping it away. The sight had Aku retreat out of fear, watching the light continue to dematerialize him. Out of desperation, he chomped off his hand around the wrist to make it stop. His old hand faded away as another respawned from the flesh wound. What was that? He thought. The others couldn't believe their eyes either, some rubbing their eyes to make sure what they saw was real. Wasn't that Shigaraki's decay? Achiko asked. Izuku looked towards her, nodding to her surprise. He then turned back to Aku. Shigaraki's ghost suddenly appeared beside him, shocking the Nomu and those who could see him. Even Shuichi and Atsuhiro could see Shigaraki briefly. It's a new addition to One for All, a gift from the man you manipulated, he said in hopes Garaki's spirit would hear, but unlike its previous destructive capabilities, it only erases malice itself. That means you're not as indestructible as you'd like to believe you are. Everyone has a weakness in one way or another. The Nomu growled, seething from his anger and teeth clenched. Shut up, the beast roared. He began pumping himself up again, bulking his entire body until he was now twice All Might's height. From his backside grew his long tail again, but also a set of demonic wings, letting the aura of his full power wash over the battlefield. Though Deku did not flinch, the realization hit the others hard. Mineta and Yuga immediately turned terrified from the mere feeling. No way! He was just toying with us? Momo shuddered. Yuga was scared out of his mind, the aura he felt on par with All for One's. And though she felt the overwhelming sensation, Achiko kept her eyes on Izuku. Aku laughed proudly, his voice deeper than before. Now, what do you have to say, whelp? I haven't been even using everything the doctor gave me. But surely someone as great as you is worth it. I will become the new All for One, he yelled. Suddenly, glow-and red hex circles appeared from his wings and unleashed a wave of fireballs homed in on Izuku. In response, Izuku retaliated with a barrage of air-shot blasts from his fingers. A single one didn't miss their target and extinguished the flames. But Aku laughed again while the same hex circle encircled the hero's feet. Look out! Achiko exclaimed. From below, a massive pillar of fire surged towards the sky and seemingly engulfed Deku. But Izuku had already cleared the attack, whooshing past Aku as Black Whip wrapped itself around his hip and was yanked towards him. What? Aku gasped. With a single pull, Black Whip flung him higher into the air as Midoriya then tailed after him. The Nomu roared, unleashing a wave of his spike missiles and fireballs at him. But even that couldn't slow him as, with a kick boost, Izuku rocketed ahead and slugged him across the face. Blood flew from Aku's lips upon impact, but his eyes remained fixated on Izuku. I told you. You're not getting a second chance. Izuku replied. Aku glared back, rage spiking once again. Now within close range, both went at each other in a barrage of punches. Aku remained midair with his wings and Midoriya flew because of the return of float. Each time their punches connect, brief shockwaves could be felt. Yeah. He really isn't holding back. Ojiro muttered. Izuku managed to break the stalemate before disappearing from sight, using a combination of gearshift and FA Jin to swiftly kick Aku far away. He stopped himself midair before unleashing a horde of rivet stabs from his hands. But they were easily shattered by Izuku using the shockwave of another smash, supercharged because of stored FA Jin energy. Because of the upgraded form of decay at work, Aku had to quickly deal with the parts of him vanishing because of their fists. Once he did, he swiftly looked back. You think this is funny? Don't mock me. Aku roared, unleashing a multitude of differing quirks aimed at Izuku. No matter what he threw his way, careful use of danger sense and smokescreen let him slip right past them all. Aku grew more and more infuriated the longer Izuku continued to outshine him. He then spawned large black snake-like dragons from his back, a quirk taken from Nine's arsenal. Izuku seemed vaguely surprised as they convened on him and attacked. But he managed to escape by propelling himself backwards with a flick of his finger. But this is what the Nomu was waiting for as he unleashed a concentrated laser blast from his finger. Izuku was able to avoid, disappear and then reappear close by. Aku gasped before he was swiftly struck, flying into a building and smashed through it. All right. That's our Midoriya. Kirishima exclaimed. Midoriya. Keep it up. Ida proclaimed alongside Momo. Bakugo pounded his fists together, creating a miniature blast. Trash this fool, Bakugo roared. Shoto glimpsed towards Bakugo and smiled. Never thought I'd see the day. Bakugo would be rooting for Midoriya, he thought. Suddenly, Aku emerged and charged straight for Izuku as fast as he could. What the? Izuku muttered. In a flash, the Nomu had latched onto Izuku with his arms and legs. The others gasped. Wait a second. That maneuver. Is he not trying to do what Endeavor tried? Shinso gasped. Aku laughed before rising up higher with Izuku until they were high in the skies overlooking the city. His body started to pulse, his pitch-black skin exerting reddish glows as he eyed Izuku with dementia in his eyes. "So that you were able to come back after I punched a hole through your chest? Let's see you pull that same stunt when there's nothing of you left. I'm going to detonate myself. If I cannot rule this world, at least I'll take you with me," he laughed, completely out of his mind. Izuku gasped. "As if," he exclaimed. Using all his strength, Izuku fought against his grip and managed to throw him off before grabbing him by his arm and chucking him as hard as he could. But the Nomu saw another opportunity and regrew his demonic blast hand, beginning to charge another blast but magnifying it as much as he could. It grew and grew in size until its size was easily comparable to the massive laser all-for-one used. "I'm done with you. One way or another that you will die." Aku laughed viciously. It began to charge. Blood-red light radiating from below him. "Midoriya!" Tokoyami proclaimed. "Move out of there!" Jiro exclaimed, memories of near-death experience fresh in her mind. But due to how far away he was, Aku had not noticed Izuku's expression remaining calm. "Enough. I have to stop this here and now. Otherwise, it'll never sink in. You laugh at the death of others? You think it's fun to tear down everything important to others? You were built solely to be a killing machine. If only. Doctor Garaki gave you a sense of a conscience." Izuku closed his eyes briefly, feeling the levels of One for All escalating. In his mind, he envisioned each of One for All's previous wielders exchanging him a glance before offering their hand. Once All Might passed him, he then began to see his classmates and other friends greeting him similarly. While this happened, his hands began radiating a golden glow, a glow noticed by Aku. The same glow enveloped all of Midoriya's body before a sudden surge, exerted the moment his eyes opened, left the Nomu briefly surprised. From his view, he now saw the radiant figures of the past wielders surrounding him, each readying an attack of their own. Their eyes shined brightly. "Just die, Izuku Midoriya!" Aku screamed, firing his massive laser. At the same time, Izuku and the others counterattacked with his own move. What came next was a sudden onslaught of titanic-sized punches, the same attack he used to finish Overhaul, raining down upon Aku with the aid of the other One for All wielders. While it only took a good 5 of the giant fists to completely decimate Aku's blast and even destroyed the blaster itself, the rest completely destroyed what confidence the Nomu had left. A look of sheer fear was on his face, on par to the last face Garaki made before death. Though they came at him fast and seemed to phase through, their damage soon accumulated as parts of Aku's body began to break off him in chunks. He lost both his arms, legs and a good portion of his demonic wings and screamed in sheer agony as the glowing decay began to affect him. "No. This can't be happening," Aku thought. One massive impact sent him careening towards the ground before crashing down on his backside, the impact leaving him paralyzed in place. Izuku then dashed straight for him, channeling all his power into his drawn-back fist, joined again by the other wielders, before they came together and fired another titanic punch. The heroes looking on from the ground watched with shock. "We got to get out of here," Kamui exclaimed, leading Empty Lady away with him. Class 1A all shrieked as they mad dashed out of the way, doing their most to avoid the attack incoming. Achiko gasped as she realized Kazuto, while nowhere near the impact zone, merely looked on in total silence, amazed by the raw power he was showing. "You're not so cool, Datamar." "Deku," he muttered. Suddenly, Achiko hurried over and grabbed him, scooping him in her arms. As they began to flee again, Kazuto glimpsed towards Achiko, looking back with a confident smile. "I know that, right?" she asked quietly. Meanwhile, the enormous punch easily rivaling Star and Stripe's colossal form drew closer and closer towards the immovable Aku. He was now at the mercy of Midoriya's attack. One for All, plus Ultra. Shining Hope Smash. Once the giant fist made contact with the ground, it created a massive fissure and shockwave, constantly pressuring down on the Nomu. In the light was an overwhelming concentration of not just One for All's raw power, but also the other quirks from its history and the likes of the new decay gnawing away his physical body. The pressure of it all was sheer torture for Aku, letting out a violent, ear-piercing scream as everything became nothing but a blur to him. His sludge-like flesh began to peel off him, exposing his brittle skeleton, his short life flashing before his eyes. Before completely evaporating with the light, Aku's eyes flared with blind rage once more at Izuku before crumbling away with him. Izuku Midoriya, I hate you. These were his last thoughts before, overwhelmed by the attack, his entirety was decayed away as the giant punch exploded in a brilliant burst of light. But this blast did not harm or even damage the surroundings or his friends shielding themselves, some diving to the ground to avoid the shock. Once the dust cleared and the overwhelming shine vanished, all that was left was a giant fist-shaped crater and Midoriya safely touched down where Aku vanished. Looking back, the other heroes were left completely blown away, the reality of the situation washing over that Izuku had won and Aku was gone. The immense light from One for All began to calm as well, reduced to a mere outline around him, while the ghosts of its previous wielders disappeared peacefully. Our world is in the process of healing. There is no place in the society we hope to build for those who think like you. May you and Garaki be reunited with All for One in the afterlife. Everything fell completely silent as Izuku slowly stood up. He glimpsed at his hand, feeling the warmth of Yoichi and the rest surging through his veins. Completely forgetting the others were nearby, he clenched his fist and rose it into the sky, striking All Might's famous pose whenever he won. Kazuto was still in total awe, gazing on at him the same way younger Izuku lit up when he watched his favorite All Might videos. Though his eyes continued to watch Izuku, the boy rose his hand. Is that what it means? To be a hero? He muttered, thinking back to when he almost died saving the boy he mistook to be Tetsuo. Nearby, Bakugo saw Izuku's posing and smirked, quietly laughing and shaking his head. DMN nerd, he said. Izuku! Achiko exclaimed, surprising Izuku before running towards him. Izuku turned her way before she threw herself against him, hugging him tightly as tears dripped down her face. He stumbled back a bit, completely caught off guard by her sudden hug. His eyes looked towards her, smiling to himself and hugged her back. What followed was the screams and cheers of victory and excitement from his classmates and the other heroes. All right, Midoriya. You did it! Hagakure exclaimed. Finally! It's over! Mineta yelled, pumping his fist with Shiro and Kaminari. The fact Kaminari later joined in caused Jiro to groan from embarrassment, looking away with her hand over her face. That was beyond manly, dude. You rock! Kirishima shouted. Tokoyami observed with arms crossed and dark shadow resting on his shoulder. I never had a doubt. Tokoyami added, joined by Shoto. Silently nodding. The other pro-heroes, including the risen Lady Nagant, began to applaud him. Unbeknownst to him, they soon all saw news reporters and cameras began to gather at the scene to report on the vicious conflict. The ferocity of his battle with Aku also put out the sea of flames and shined the sun back on the now destroyed Kamino ward. The rest of Class 1A gathered around him, continuing their cheers and praise. Dude, how did you get your quirk to reactive? I was almost worried it wasn't going to come back. Sato asked. Yeah, Midoriya. You have to tell us what you were thinking then. It could be what Dr. Takashi was putting in all that work for. Ojiro added. Izuku looked quietly at them before looking at his hand, the others still hugging Achiko. I don't know if I can honestly answer that. He said, all that was on my mind, even when I felt my absolute lowest, was that I had to protect the people I love. I had to protect my home and to not let Aku win. And I guess it helped that, in the brief PRD I was on the edge of death, I felt I overcame an internal struggle I never knew was there. He looked at the others, most of them looking a bit baffled or unable to follow his ramble. He lightly blushed, appearing flustered. I'll try and explain it better later. Right now, I'm completely, he replied with fatigue showing. Just then, Achiko interrupted him by kissing him without warning. Everyone reacted in their own surprised manner. Ashido simply overcame with happiness and giddy jumps while Bakugo merely smirked with arms crossed. Jiro lightly blushed, feeling happy for her. From afar, Kazuto watched with his own smile but remained quiet and wiped the tears from his eyes. But to his surprise, Izuku glanced his way and left Achiko to approach and kneel down to him. He extended a hand to him, surprising the child. "Thank you for coming to the rescue when I was out. I'm sorry you had to go through such an intense moment on your own. But, hey, I suppose we're even now," he said, thinking back to when he saved him at the hospital. Kazuto gasped. "Wait. You knew I was here the whole time? How?" he asked. Izuku chuckled, seeing Yoichi's ghost behind him before he vanished. Yoichi had lightly nodded, putting his hand against the boy's back. "Let's say, a friend that still dwells within one for all, told me help was on the way," he said with a laugh. It didn't take Kazuto long to realize who he meant, recounting his visions of Yoichi's spirit in his head. He watched as Izuku extended his hand to thank him. Kazuto didn't know how to respond, shedding a few more tears before he returned the gesture. But he was suddenly pulled into Izuku's arms, hugging the small boy. An immediate feeling of warmth and love came over him, feeling as if it was his birth father hugging him now. "Kazuto? I've been thinking about this for a while now. But, after what you showed us, I don't think you'll be seeing the last of me and your brother as well," he said, surprising Kazuto. "Before he took me under his wing, All Might told me I could become a hero. He helped me see that even those born quirkless can become protectors of the peace, they can rise to do great things and they can become heroes in their own right." Hearing those words caused more tears to build up in his eyes before they dripped down his face, silently asking if this is what he thought it meant. "If you'll have me, Kazuto, I'd like to offer that same hand to you and Tetsuo. How would you like to be not only my student, but your new father?" he asked softly. Quivering with happiness, Kazuto sniffled before he found himself hugging Izuku. "Think that," he muttered as he buried his face in his chest. They stayed hugging one another for a while before, staying at his side, Izuku saw Achiko walking over and stood back up. A large smile was on her face as she held his hands, keeping one finger off. Izuku. I don't really thought I lost you. Did you have any idea how I would have felt if you really died?" she said, slightly scolding him but in her usual cheerful tone. What do you have to say for yourself, you reckless dummy?" Izuku lightly chuckled as did Mina, realizing she was using her insult on him now. "I truly sorry, Achiko. I didn't want to lose you either," he said, thinking back to when Aku proudly showed off her battered body and his descent into blind anger. "But you helped give me the boost I needed to res Park One for all. This wouldn't have been possible if I didn't have someone special as you in my life. So, know that's just how much you mean to me. What I said at the party I really meant it. I love you, Achiko." All fell silent, the two staring each other in their tear-filled eyes, before Achiko reached into her headpiece and, after opening a compartment, showed him the ring he gave her. The others gasped as she slowly put it on her finger again. Smile on both their faces, Izuku gently took both her hands. "Achiko Uraraka, would you continue staying by my side? So we can be partners and continue making this world a better place? I'd be lost without you. And that's the truth," he asked without hesitation. Without saying anything back, Achiko nodded as tears began to build once more. "Weiss. Izuku Midoriya," she sniffled, the two hugging again as Kazuto watched silently. Everyone quickly erupted with cheers and applause, congratulating the two. But as things began to settle for him, Izuku suddenly realized how he phrased his words to her, hitting him that he just asked her to marry him. His usual look of awkwardness returned for a brief moment before it was silenced by the sight of Achiko smiling brightly. His friends were quick to notice, however. "Don't look so surprised, dude. You totally meant every word," Shiro proclaimed. Hagakure and Ishido squealed with glee. Shoto laughed, as did Kamui and the other pro-heroes. Joining the others, even Lady Nagant couldn't help but laugh at Midoriya. "You two are so adorable. The perfect couple." Koda shouted, joined in by Hagakure giving him invisible thumbs up. "That sounded like a marriage proposal if I ever heard one." Guys?" Kaminari joined. Jiro nodded, saying she could tell as well. Izuku's face lit up red as his friends continued to cheer and playfully ridicule him, Eri included. Just then he noticed Achiko looking at him with the same bright red face, the teasing making her blush from embarrassment as well. They looked at one another before joining in the laughing as well. From afar, Bakugo remained quiet and smiled until he got a look from Mineta. A coy look was on the pipsqueak's face. Pissed. Hey Bakugo. Mineta asked slyly, much to his annoyance. What? If you're about to ask me that, I'll blast you to ash, stupid grape. Bakugo asked, sparks crackling in his palm. Mineta simply looked away and wagged his finger, unknowingly angering Bakugo more. Not that. Just wondering how it feels, to be outdone by Midoriya. Again, he snarkily continued, Bakugo growling louder. Shoto and Yaoyorozu were practically a thing by now, Jiro hooked up with Kaminari, and Midoriya just confessed to Uraraka. So, tell me how's it feel being in the loser league like me, Mr. Dynadork? Mineta then went into a hysteric laughter as if to make himself for not having a girlfriend yet. Bakugo snarled like a rabid animal, anger flaring up before he grabbed Mineta by the ball on his head and drew him closer. His eyes flared with blind fury, as bloodthirsty as a wild beast that left Mineta overcome with fear. You think that was funny? Why a DMN pervert? Don't you make fun of me, you waste of human flesh. Die, he roared. Mineta screamed like a little girl as he was quickly engulfed in a massive explosion, shocking and surprising the others. Kazuto yelped in complete shock before hurrying to Izuku and Achiko's side. Bakugo! What was that for? Ida exclaimed, Are you crazy? Bakugo glared over his shoulder at him. Shut up, Four Eyes. The little sheet had it comin', he screamed. Did you even hear what he said to Omi? The others hurried to calm Bakugo, who was busy using the beaten miniature hero as a punching bag. Kazuto quivered slightly at Midoriya's side. Never make him mad, got it? He muttered, making a mental note to himself. A few days later, Izuku and Achiko made continuous visits to Jaka Hospital following Aku's defeat, joined by Kazuto, to visit Tetsuo in the hospital. As of then, he had reawakened and looked back towards them as they entered through the door to his room. He looked on in shock at the mere sight of them on the first day awake. Kazuto, Tetsuo muttered, trying to hold tears back. The boy lightly blushed, smiling at the sight of him. I told you I'd find you up, bro, he smiled back. They all pulled up at his side. Tetsuo left absolutely stunned at the sight of Izuku and Achiko. Wait. Kazuto, aren't they Deku and Uravity? They're pro-heroes, he asked, hand shaking while pointing at them. Kazuto looked back and lightly chuckled. Yeah. My brother is a huge fan of heroes. And he's a massive fanboy of yours, Dad. Kazuto explained. Izuku chuckled while Tetsuo was left more out of the loop. He couldn't believe his ears at the words he heard. He exchanged a glance with Achiko. It's all right. You heard correct. Izuku and I are planning to adopt you both once you're discharged, she explained. Izuku nodded. Kazuto told me about what you went through. It must have been scary fending for yourself at your age. But don't worry. We're planning on getting married. And once we take care of the paperwork, you'll be our children, he said while resting his hand atop his heads. Tears immediately welled up in Tetsuo's eyes before they trailed down like waterfalls. Kazuto lightly smiled, his heart warm at the sight of his brother's face smiling despite the tears. You always were such a crybaby. Always have been. But right now, I'm really glad you're all right, Tetsuo, he thought, and, from the looks of things, our lives are about to take a huge turn for the better. Extra Chapter, Epilogue. Hey there, it's me, Izuku Midoriya. Things have managed to calm down since the incident with Aku. What has happened with me and my friends since then, you ask? Well, let me fill in some blanks for you. Deku and Uravity's wedding. I may have been somewhat exhausted from my battle with Aku, but I meant every word when I told Achiko that I wanted to stay by her side, even if it may have come out in a way that I didn't expect. You would not believe how overwhelmed my mom was when I told her. Achiko even told me that her dad seemingly fainted upon hearing the news. But we had both the support of our families as well as our friends and fellow pro heroes. As you can imagine, news of this would make headlines no matter who reported on it. Well, to make sure we weren't overwhelmed by reporters and interview requests, the two of us decided to have the ceremony as a private event with only those closest to us receiving invitations. This also was an extended offer to Kazuto and Tetsuo following his brother's release from the hospital. The days leading up to then was pure torture on my psyche, constantly finding time in my schedule to prepare and rehearse what to say with my friends and All Might. Thankfully, that all helped when I finally saw Achiko again in her wedding dress. The tuxedo and gown we were wearing were actually handcrafted gifts from Yaoyorozu, even staying in theme with the colors of our hero uniforms. But that was the last of my concerns, as her beaming smile was all I could keep my eyes on. After the ceremony, we were given a special performance from Jiro and others, the band reunited from the school festival. If you asked me to recall the best part of it all, I'd have to say, it was the warm feeling I felt from kissing her. And it was probably the best moment of my entire life. Despite us withholding our feelings to put our goals and priorities first, it felt like we never really lost any time because of it. And it was thanks to others encouraging us that helped us learn an important life lesson. Heroes never act alone. We're now a happily married couple with plenty of time to ourselves, meaning trips and going out on dates wasn't out of the question. We knew that, in the likelihood we have children, we didn't want our family to have situations such as the Todorokis and Dabi. Once news got around, interest in her parents' construction company and the court counseling program only rocketed in numbers. If you ever get a chance to pay our house a visit, you'll find a special framed photo taken from the wedding, Achiko and myself standing along what is often said as the final instance All Might managed to appear in his muscular form. Evolution of One for All. Before and after our wedding, I constantly took many trips to Jaku Hospital per request of Dr. Takashi. I was once again put through a variety of tests and exams which led to an amazing realization about the reawakened One for All. What used to be an evolving power passed over the pages of history was now a single flame itself. It was now corely dependent on the strength of my resolve and will. While this meant that it was now all one ability, it seemed to have mutated in a way that let me use abilities similar to the original quirks of the previous wielders. As for the new mutation of Decay, gifted to me by Tenko Shimura during my time in Limbo, it was not a tool of destruction and could only be used to deteriorate feelings of malice and hatred in others. It was this power that guaranteed my victory of Aku, breaking down his seeds of dark feelings with each blow I dealt. As for the remains of the battlesuit I was gifted by my friends, it was reworked into a support tool thanks to a collaboration of UA High's support corps students, the SHIELD family in America and even the Japanese government to be used in tandem with One for All. While this helped me rise in the popularity poll at incredible speeds, even overtaking Lumillion, the fact I can still use One for All to help others is all I really need in my life. I even received a postcard congratulating me for my #1 ranking from him, Tamaki and Nijiro. At the time, they were out of the country on hero work and made them unable to rush to help us when Aku attacked. But, in Mirio's own words, he wasn't that worried about us. Future of Kazuto and Tetsuo. Although I did not originally plan to pass One for All on to him when I offered myself for the blood transfusion, it was the means to open a new door of possibility for Kazuto. After Tetsuo was discharged from the hospital, Achiko and I filled out the paperwork to adopt the brothers under our family name of Midoriya. Their new full names were Kazuto Midoriya and Tetsuo Midoriya, our adopted children and my future pupils for the next era of heroes. It was only a while later that we received a surprise visit from Timothy Agpar, a USA military commander we met after Star and Stripe, America's #1 pro, came to our aid. Word had reached the American government about Kazuto inheriting my quirk, and he visited us with a request, asking for our approval to let Kazuto and Tetsuo enroll in a UA university being constructed in the United States. To our surprise, it appeared the events of the war with All for One and the League sparked interest in expanding the UA name to other countries. Principal Nizu was already working closely with investors and members from both the American government and United Nations to build the first new school in California. We were originally unsure about enrolling the boys in a school outside of Japan. But, to my surprise, Kazuto wanted to take this chance so that One for All would be able to offer its strength and protection to others in need, even if they were cries from overseas. From the perspective of myself and Mr. Agpar, it was also Japan's way of honoring Star and Stripe's legacy. When time came for a routine family physical checkup, I was surprised to learn that the One for All genes in Kazuto's body changed in a way that was greatly different from me. While it still allowed him to wield the incredible strength the quirk was famous for, similar to how I first started, it was not as overwhelming on his young body and he did not have access to the other quirks passed on by the previous wielders. Dr. Takashi even theorized that this was a new evolution that was exclusive to Kazuto, meaning anything was capable if he continued improving the power. As for Tetsuo, things had taken a surprising and shocking direction that we didn't expect. Tetsuo's body had undergone tests under the gaze of Dr. Garaki so he could be a worthy host once a coup was ready. Dr. Takashi later told me that, before he met me and delved into study of quirk evolution, he was once the understudy of the doctor when he was working at Jaka Hospital. It was only thanks to a strain in their views and relationship that let him escape before he could be labeled an accomplice when word got out of his alliance to All for One. While he was isolated in quarantine, the three of us had plenty of time to visit him in the hospital and we slowly got to know one another. But as I kept up my visits, the doctors told me that Tetsuo would often have feelings of pain that would paralyze his arms for a while. These feelings eventually mutated into a quirk that Tetsuo could use because of Garaki's experimentations. And to the utter surprise of both me and All Might, the name of the quirk he developed was one we never thought would resurface: All for One. Yes, the quirk that symbolized the eternal nemesis to One for All was now on Tetsuo's body. All Might wasn't sure if, as a result, the deceased symbol of fear's vestige resided within. But there was a bit of a silver lining to the news as further examinations placed Tetsuo's variant of All for One more similar to the copy used by 9. And while others would have talked me out of this, I still went through with my decision to train the boys to control and strengthen their new powers so they would be ready for when they entered the world of pro heroes. I have no doubt that with the right guidance and sufficient preparation, they could accomplish truly incredible things. I'll believe in them just as you did in me, All Might.